In my first life, every girl I chased in college either used me, ignored me, or watched me humiliate myself. Then I regressed to freshman year with a cheat system that turned money spent on me into strength, skill, and status. I went back planning revenge. On the college train, a rich boyfriend knocked out my tooth. His family offered $800,000. The spending system credited every dollar spent fixing me. That was how my first enemy became my first investor. Rhett Kavanaugh raised his fist. I wiped the blood away. Go ahead, I told him. You're paying by the punch. How much would Rhett fund before he realized his victim was profiting? To understand why I wanted another punch, go back 24 hours. At my final office job, I was 30 and finished. My girlfriend had cheated. My savings were gone. Then my boss fired me in front of the whole floor. He held up an article about our successful owner. He went to Crestview State, my boss announced. Same school as Calvin Archer. Look how differently that worked out. One coworker laughed while I packed one cardboard box. People had spent my whole first life treating kindness like permission. I had paid, apologized, and waited until I was useful to everyone except me. That night, I stepped over the warning strip on a subway platform. A train entered the tunnel. The lights rushed closer. The station vanished before it reached me. A flat voice spoke in the dark. Spending system activation package available. One beginner wish. Choose once. The rule came with it. Verified spending creates points. Points improve approved attributes and skills. I could have asked for comfort. I asked for my wasted years. Send me back to the beginning, I told it. I'll handle the rest. The darkness snapped away. I opened my eyes in August 2013. Eliza Sutton sat across the train aisle. Eliza, my old school goddess, read by the window in a summer dress. My phone showed the date. The train, ticket, and cheap glasses matched. Eliza looked up. Calvin? You're going to Crestview too? My 19-year-old mouth found the same bad pickup line from my first life. Maybe fate assigned the seats. Eliza stared at me. You bought the ticket. Brutal. The goddess still had timing. Last time I flirted until she called her boyfriend. This time I stopped early. Too late. Eliza called toward the next car. Rhett came down the aisle in expensive sneakers and a loud watch. Eliza's boyfriend wore the title like ownership papers. Rhett planted one hand on her seat. Is this guy bothering you? Eliza closed her book. We went to school together. Rhett checked my faded shirt, canvas bag, and thick glasses. Then he should know when to leave people alone. I went to the snack counter. Hunger was easier than arguing with the jealous trust fund bulldog. I bought instant noodles. The system flashed when I paid. Purchase verified. Vision, poor. Strength, low. Appearance, below average. Available points, almost useless. The cheat could rebuild me. I had enough cash to feed it noodles. Disrespectful tutorial. Rhett followed me into the dining car and looked at the cup. That your college meal? Rhett asked. Eliza, my family can buy you anything. You don't need broke kid food. Eliza smelled the noodles. I want those. She had picked powdered broth over his money. I had chicken strips and an orange too. Eliza asked for the chicken, so I charged the sticker price. She paid. I returned the change with the orange. Eliza lifted it. What's this? Customer loyalty, she laughed. Rhett's jaw tightened. A 50-cent orange had entered combat, and the orange was winning. Rhett slapped the food from my hand. Stop trying to impress my girlfriend. Eliza stood. Rhett, calm down. He ignored her. Naturally, Rhett pointed at me. Apologize, grab your bag and move cars. Passengers looked over their phones and books. Good, he wanted a stage. I picked up the orange and wiped it on my sleeve. You're shouting at noodles, I told him. I genuinely don't know what you thought would happen. Several passengers laughed. Rhett shoved me into a seat frame. Eliza caught his arm. Stop. Rhett tore free. He keeps disrespecting me. I stood. My knees were weak. My eyesight was garbage. His pride was weaker. Your girlfriend asked for food, I told him. You turned it into a hostage negotiation. Rhett grabbed my shirt and threw me into the aisle. My mouth hit the metal seat edge. Pain split my jaw. Something hard clicked across the floor. My front tooth. The carriage went silent. Rhett saw disgust on Eliza's face. He punched me anyway. The first hit hurt. The second tilted the car. By the third, passengers called the guard. I covered my head as shoes gathered around us. Then the math became beautiful. Rhett had money. I had witnesses. Eliza was begging him to stop. Every extra swing raised the price of saving his reputation. I lowered my guard enough for him to see my smile. Is that all? I asked through blood. Rhett's face twisted. You think this is funny? I spat blood aside. No, I think it's expensive. He swung again. Eliza shoved between us. Rhett, we're done. Get away from him. That hurt him more than anything I could throw. A woman raised her recording. A student blocked the aisle. Passengers closed around Rhett before the guard pinned him. The former doormat had won the room. Rhett kept digging. He provoked me, Rhett insisted. The woman with the phone answered. You knocked out his tooth. Rhett pointed at me. He flirted with Eliza. Eliza stepped away from him. I asked Calvin for food, you attacked him. By the next stop, transit police removed Rhett. An ambulance crew lifted me onto a stretcher. My jaw throbbed, my ribs burned. Crestview registration was already slipping away. Then the ambulance charge posted. Direct benefit expense verified. Points credited. I stared at the notification. The rule had a loophole. Verified expenses bought for me counted when I was the direct beneficiary. Rhett's family could pay for my recovery and fund my growth. Oh boy. My first investor was cooked. By the time the train left the next station, an ambulance had taken me to a private hospital room Rhett's family was paying for. Eliza arrived later with my bent glasses in one hand. She placed them beside the bed. You look awful, I asked. With the glasses on or off? Eliza tried to stay serious. She failed. I pointed at the gap in my smile. Rhett also improved my ventilation. Calvin. Eliza covered her mouth, laughing despite herself. You're impossible. Toothless flirting should have been illegal. I had already survived worse decisions. Eliza gave me her phone and asked for my number. The unreachable goddess from my first life was entering my contact while her former boyfriend sat under guard. She paused over the screen. Rhett and I are finished. I kept my voice level. Because of today? Eliza shook her head. Today showed me what I kept excusing. He shouted. You were the one bleeding and you still kept track of everyone watching. I enjoyed that reversal for 3 seconds. Then Rhett's parents entered. Mr. Kavanaugh arrived in an expensive coat and looked exhausted. His son had been caught attacking a broke freshman on video. Mrs. Kavanaugh started apologizing before she reached the bed. We kept cleaning up after him, Mrs. Kavanaugh admitted. He started believing every mess belonged to somebody else. Rhett had finally found a mess with an $800,000 price tag. Their lawyer stayed near the door with one folder. Good. One folder meant settlement. Mr. Kavanaugh placed the offer on the bed, $800,000, plus every medical, travel, and private room charge. I touched the missing tooth. Your son kept punching after Eliza stopped him. The video has sound. His wife's hands started shaking. Mr. Kavanaugh pushed the paper closer and glanced toward the door. I guessed he wanted the wire finished before Rhett found another way to make it worse. I accepted, then gave them the performance they needed. Money won't fix Rhett, I told his parents. Make him understand that people aren't objects he can control. Mrs. Kavanaugh thanked me. They initiated the transfer. Mrs. Kavanaugh thanked me again before they left. Their son had truly achieved elite clown status. The lawyer kept the final release in his folder. Rhett still owed me a formal apology before I signed it. The system posted the payment immediately. Settlement payment received. Total available points, 3,187,000. My hands went cold. The cheat had been real on the train. That balance made it dangerous. I spent points on my eyesight first. My vision cleared from the center outward. The room sharpened. Eliza's face came into focus more clearly than I had ever seen her. That was unfair. She looked even better in high definition. I raised basic appearance next. The swelling remained, but the tired skin, weak posture, and old asymmetry began correcting beneath it. The system allowed health and appearance adjustments. Regrowing a missing tooth required a higher medical restoration level. My new face could wait behind bruises. The gap in my smile stayed as Rhett's receipt. Eliza noticed the change before I said anything. She had watched me squint through school for years. Now I read the tiny dosage label across the room before she could. She leaned closer. Your eyes look different, I told her. I finally saw the bill. She rolled her eyes and brought me an absurdly thick economics book the next morning. Eliza placed it on my chest. This should keep you quiet. I held it against my chest. Attempted murder. Again. Eliza returned that afternoon with the web novel she actually liked. We argued over the ridiculous hero until visiting hours nearly ended. Before she left, Eliza put her father on speaker. He had heard the passenger recordings and her version of the fight. You stayed calmer than men twice your age, her father told me. Thank you for keeping Eliza out of the worst of it. I told him Rhett had created the danger. Eliza had helped end it. His tone warmed. In my first life, I had mistaken small kindnesses for promises. This time, I watched what people did. Eliza kept coming back. Rhett arrived 2 days later for the formal apology. His father and the lawyer stood behind him. The guard stayed outside. Rhett kept his eyes on the floor before anyone spoke. Rhett bowed his head. I'm sorry for attacking you. His father waited. Rhett looked at the floor. I waited longer. The jealous bulldog had loved an audience on the train. He hated one now. I made him repeat Eliza's name and apologize to her too. It was petty. The goddess deserved to hear him admit the problem aloud. The lawyer placed the final release before me. I signed 1 page. Process over. The system posted the completed receipt. Verified direct benefit spending, $1,150,000. After Rhett left, Eliza's father visited in person. He thanked me for refusing to blame his daughter and offered extra money for the trouble. I pushed the envelope back. Eliza was trapped in that scene too. I won't charge her family for it. Her father studied me, then put the envelope away. Come visit when you're settled at school, he told me. Our door is open. Eliza smiled beside him. Rhett had lost his girlfriend, his parents' money, the crowd, and the story he tried to tell about me. I had a settlement, 3,187,000 points, Eliza's number, and one ugly gap in my smile. The money cleared before sunset. The spending system opened. I chose my next purchases before anyone from my old college life could see the former doormat again. The morning after discharge, I took Rhett's settlement card to 2 starter condos near campus. He had broken one tooth. I planned to buy 2 doors. The bank linked the settlement to a black tier card the spending system had generated. The property agent saw a bruised freshman, a canvas bag, and one expensive card. Her smile came out crooked. "Are your parents joining us?" the agent asked. I shook my head. "No." The agent opened a smaller brochure. "Then we should discuss rentals in your budget." I pointed at 2 small units in an aging complex. "I'm buying those." The agent checked my face again. The missing tooth was doing terrible work for my credibility. I remembered that district from my first life. 2 years later, a redevelopment boom would double rents and drag the unit prices behind them. I used large down payments, financed the rest, and put both condos into immediate rental management. One remembered, boom, 2 rental doors, no property lecture, the black tier card cleared. The agent stood straighter before the receipt finished printing. She called the rental manager in front of me. One unit already had a tenant, the second needed paint and a lock change. Both would produce rent before the district boom became public. "Mr. Archer, we can handle everything," the agent promised. 5 minutes earlier, she had offered me a smaller brochure. Now she offered coffee with both hands and called me Mr. I left with 2 sets of keys and a much thinner bank balance. The properties were smart. They also trapped most of my cash where I could not spend it twice. That afternoon, I rented a luxury suite near campus and opened the spending system. My settlement had become property, but the points still waited. I tried to restore the missing tooth first. Medical restoration unavailable. System level 2 required. 3 advanced health skills must reach level 3. I stared at the message. The system had repaired my eyesight, cleaned up my face, and refused one tooth out of professional spite. "Excellent priorities," I told the ceiling. I raised the spending system to level 2. New options opened, stronger attribute correction, professional skills, and a small chance for purchases to trigger themed gifts. That last rule mattered. Buy something ordinary and the system might throw in something strange that matched it. I spent points on finance, accounting, marketing, and cognition. Knowledge hit hard enough to fold me across the bed. Balance sheets, pricing models, tax rules, and market patterns slammed into my head together. My nose started bleeding. The room tilted. Power had a physical price. Good. At least the cheat was honest about one thing. When the pressure passed, I could read the property contracts once and see every weak clause. I also spent points on strength, coordination, height, posture, skin, and facial balance. My shoulders widened, my balance tightened. The system pulled another inch from growth my first body had wasted. A bruised freshman stared back from the mirror, related to the tired man only through poor life choices. When room service arrived, the attendant checked the number twice. The attendant asked, "Mr. Archer," lifted my ID. "Still me." Her eyes moved from my ID photo to my face. She became very careful with the tray. The tooth gap remained. Fine, I kept the gap as Rhett's petty receipt. 2 weeks later, after the hospital stay made me miss registration, I walked into Crestview State University's branch campus. Crestview was the lower status campus attached to a better-known main school. In my first life, I had arrived apologizing for existing. This time, the administrator looked at my medical records, then at my black tier card when I paid the remaining fees. I asked for the quieter top-floor 4-person dorm instead of the crowded room from my first life. The administrator started explaining that freshmen rarely received upgrades. I placed the hospital note beside the prepaid housing receipt. She stopped explaining. The administrator found an opening immediately. Outside the building, 2 women turned to look at me. One walked into a sign. A group near the fountain checked my dorm key, then checked my face. By lunch, strangers were already asking which main campus family had transferred in. I had spent half my life blaming my glasses for everything. Turns out they had been sealing the product. In my defense, I enjoyed that discovery. Cash was getting tight after the condos, suite, fees, and upgrades. On the walk to class, a street seller waved a cheap self-help manual at me. "Improve your mind for $10, he promised. I handed him the bill. Bold claim. I bought it anyway to test the themed gift rule. The system chimed before I reached the next corner. Themed gift acquired. A digital study text appeared in my system inventory. It cost almost nothing and raised cognition through study. My $10 experiment had beaten an upgrade price with several more zeros. For once, the cheap test paid. The next morning, the finance classroom went quiet when the late student walked in. I had missed the first weeks because Rhett treated my face like a punching bag. Now everyone stared like the punch had upgraded the packaging. I faced the room. "I'm Calvin Archer. I'm late, single, and accepting contact requests from women with strong attendance records. Several women laughed. A few phones came out. One woman added me before I reached the nearest seat. Another asked whether I modeled. The men watched the room redistribute attention in real time. Look, I had spent one life being invisible. I was allowed to enjoy the update. Renee Chandler, the class monitor, collected fees at the front desk. She did not laugh. Renee had been proud, sharp, and casually cruel to the old me. She looked like she had never lost an argument she respected. The class monitor Volcano held out her hand. $200. I gave her the fee. Does that include your number? Renee closed the receipt book. It includes the privilege of leaving my desk. There she was. Same temper. Better lighting. Kayla Donnelly leaned over from the next row. She was the classmate who had accepted my gifts in the first life while keeping me permanently almost chosen. She smiled at my phone. That model looks old. Did the hospital take all your money? The gold digger with a calculator had begun her audit. I looked at her shoes. Those are cute. Kayla brightened. Really? Nodded. Yeah, they almost distracted me from the interview. Jillian Avery, the friendlier green-haired classmate beside her, laughed into her notebook. Kayla recovered fast. I was only making conversation. I answered. So was I. Kayla leaned closer anyway. What does your family do? I told her. Mostly worry about me, Kayla pressed. What kind of car do you drive? I pointed toward the station. The kind with train tracks. Jillian laughed again. Kayla tapped my old phone. Camouflage, Kayla decided. Then she leaned closer. In my first life, one compliment from Kayla could empty my wallet. This time she got one compliment and a closed account. A classmate asked whether I thought Renee was the prettiest woman in the room. Renee kept writing, but her shoulders went still. I care more about inner qualities, I answered. Renee's pen stopped. Jillian whispered, that sounded targeted. I answered, it found its target. Renee looked up. Do you always talk this much? I smiled. Only when the class monitor keeps asking follow-up questions? Her glare promised future paperwork and possible arson. That night, in the top-floor 4-person room, 3 strangers were using my bed like inherited property. Cody Maddox sat on my mattress eating chips. Cody had the face of a man who could turn private information into a campus announcement before breakfast. Jordan Keller stood beside the window with crossed arms. He watched me like protecting the room was already his unpaid job. The quiet roommate had stacked boxes on my desk. Cody pointed at the remaining bunk. Take that one, we already settled this. I placed my bag on the floor. Get off my bed. Jordan stepped forward. You planning to make us? A claw hammer from the condo toolbox sat inside my bag. I pulled it out, checked the head, and placed it gently on the desk. Planning? I asked. No, I'm tired. Nobody spoke. I picked up one of the boxes and set it beside Cody. This yours? Cody stood so fast the chips hit the floor. The quiet roommate grabbed 2 bags. Jordan kept staring at the hammer, then at my calm face. I asked, where are you going? Jordan opened the door. Giving you space. I nodded. Thoughtful. They left the room. I had threatened nobody. Their imagination did all the labor. By morning, Cody had told half the floor that the attractive new freshman slept beside a hammer and smiled during confrontations. The discount psychopath reputation was born before I unpacked. Girls started crowding the elevator. Men from my floor stopped touching my things. Cody and Jordan returned carefully, asked before using the desk, and became extremely motivated roommates. Cody even brought me breakfast. I figured we should start over, he announced. I looked at the food. Is the hammer included? Cody nearly dropped the bag. Jordan finally laughed. That running gag gave me more privacy than any lock. The rumor also made my money a campus mystery. Kayla repeated her camouflage theory to Jillian. Jillian started bringing snacks for research. I rejected fake familiarity and studied. That annoyed people more than chasing attention ever had. 3 days later, Renee dropped into the seat across from me in the library. You got dumped, she declared. I looked up from the intelligence text. Good afternoon to you too. Renee tapped my study schedule. Men don't change this hard without heartbreak. She cheated, you disappeared, and now you're rebuilding yourself to make her regret it. The class monitor Volcano kept going. By the end, she had invented rain, a train station, a rich rival, and a final reunion. I stared at her. Do you write novels for a living? Renee's face changed for half a second. There it was. In my first life, I had once seen a distinctive username and an update request on Renee's laptop. She had bullied me away from the desk before I could read more. I remembered the green icon, the cucumber avatar, and the way she had slammed the screen shut. Back then, I had assumed the proud class monitor was hiding a boyfriend. Adult me recognized an author dashboard when he saw one. Renee stood. I have class business. She left too quickly. The clue put a secret account within reach, and Renee had handed it to me herself. That evening, back in my dorm, I bought a new laptop, a better phone, and a fresh SIM. The purchase triggered another themed gift. Anonymous Super SIM acquired. Functions: masked registration, clean secondary number, voice filter. 3 functions. Plenty of trouble. I registered a fresh account without linking my main phone. The secondary number passed verification. I tested the voice filter once, heard a stranger answer back, and saved it for later. I searched the username fragment I remembered. One account matched the avatar and writing style. Its screen name was Velvet Cucumber. I sent a friend request with one line about a deleted chapter only the author would recognize. Before Velvet Cucumber answered, Derek Larkin grabbed my notebook during the next morning's class. Derek was a loud classmate who claimed his family owned several luxury buildings near campus. The apartment prince waved my property notes in front of the room. Calvin studies condos because he thinks reading about rich people makes him one, Derek announced. Renee looked over. Kayla turned in her seat. Perfect audience. I held out my hand. Give it back. Derek smiled. Tell everyone what your family owns first, I answered. 2 condos. The room laughed because I answered plainly. Derek laughed loudest and slapped my notebook against his palm. 2 cheap units and he thinks he understands real estate, Derek told Renee. My family owns the skyline outside this window. Derek spread his arms. My family owns whole buildings. He should have stopped there. In my first life, Derek's relatives fought publicly over those apartments. I had rented nearby and followed the dispute because their screaming kept making local news. I stood. Your family shares several apartments inside 2 buildings. The towers belong to a development company. Derek's smile slipped. I kept going. Your father controls 1 unit. The rest sit across relatives and an estate dispute. Show us 1 deed for an entire building. Derek looked toward the door. I pointed through the window. Pick any tower you claim. Name the company on the deed. His mouth opened. Nothing useful came out. Renee closed her fee book. He asked for 1 deed. Kayla stopped smiling at Derek. The class waited. Derek put my notebook down. That's private family business. I nodded. 5 seconds ago, it was public family wealth. Derek stopped talking. 2 classmates silently deleted the messages where they had asked him for introductions. Kayla turned her chair away from him. The apartment prince sat down with exactly 2 fewer towers than he had claimed. After class, Renee caught me at the door. Renee asked, "How did you know that?" I answered, "I read." She studied me like a plot hole she wanted to solve. My phone vibrated. Velvet Cucumber had accepted the friend request. Renee stood 3 feet away, glaring at me in person, while the account I suspected was hers opened the door online. By lunchtime the next day, back in our finance classroom, Derek's public collapse had changed who got listened to. The apartment prince stopped boasting. Kayla brought lunch, Jillian brought dessert. Renee glared at both women while the account I suspected was hers waited on my phone. 1 deleted chapter answer would tell me whether I had found her. Kayla placed a boxed meal on my desk. You skipped breakfast again. Broke, I told her. She looked at my new laptop. Your version of broke has excellent specifications. Jillian set down a drink. He's rich in mystery. Terrible currency, I said. Keep the food coming. The gold digger with a calculator had once trained me to pay for every crumb of attention. Now she was buying the crumbs. Renee watched from the front row. Class starts in 3 minutes. This isn't a restaurant. I opened Kayla's box. Then why is the service improving? Renee's pen pressed hard enough to mark the next page. That afternoon, I returned with an expensive cake and fruit cups labeled for everyone who had fed me. Kayla got strawberries. Jillian got melon. Renee got nothing until she asked. Renee stood beside my desk. Where's mine? I answered. I thought you cared about inner qualities. Renee's smile became dangerous. Calvin slid her a mango cup. The class monitor Volcano took it without thanking me. She took the mango. That counted. When classmates asked what kind of woman I liked, I gave them different answers. Kayla looked hopeful. Jillian looked entertained. Renee looked annoyed. Kayla wanted a number. Pretty or loyal? I answered. Both sounds efficient. Jillian leaned across the aisle. Rich? I told her. I'm open to scholarships. Renee closed her folder. He likes attention. I looked at her. You noticed. Attention had finally come to me. I kept it competing. The class's next distraction was a Saturday safari trip. Renee collected payments and assigned meeting points. She never thanked me for the mango. Over the next 3 days, I sent small donations through her author page. The platform dashboard showed every payment. Money made an anonymous stranger hard to ignore. On the 3rd night back in the dorm, Velvet Cucumber finally answered. Velvet Cucumber messaged, "Why are you asking about a deleted chapter?" I typed back, "Because the published version ends with a blue umbrella and no explanation." She paused. Then she answered, "It belonged to the heroine's mother." I cut the reveal. Only the author knew that deleted ending. Renee Chandler was Velvet Cucumber. She had no idea the anonymous reader complimenting her timing was the man she wanted removed from the classroom. Man, what a beautiful little mess. I stopped there. Letting Renee wonder was more useful than pushing. Saturday morning, the class met at the subway for the safari trip Renee had already paid for. Kayla took my left arm. Jillian claimed the right. Both called it crowd control. Renee looked at us and checked the attendance sheet with unnecessary violence. I escaped near the restrooms and sent her a private message. Emergency. I'm trapped without toilet paper, Renee replied immediately. Why are you telling me? I sent class monitor duty. Renee shot back. Ask Kayla. She seems committed to your survival. I wrote, I need somebody responsible. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. Renee asked, what do I get? Offered 1 sincere compliment. Renee demanded 2. I called her greedy. She told me to stay trapped. I told her she looked good in the fitted safari outfit and terrifying with an attendance sheet. Both were true. The second compliment did more work. Renee arrived near the restroom carrying tissues and an expression usually reserved for tax fraud. I stepped from behind the corner with 2 ice creams. Renee stopped. You lied. I held up the cones. I upgraded the emergency. Renee took one. You're unbearable. Smiled. Yet you came. She bit the ice cream and looked away. I came for the class. I nodded. Of course, the class loves vanilla. In my defense, her blush was winning the argument. The spending system chimed. Flirting skill acquired through successful use. I upgraded it before Renee finished the cone. The system rewarded behavior too. Apparently shamelessness had a career path. A little boy chasing a balloon clipped my knee beside the bench. I stumbled into Renee. One hand caught her waist, the other crushed my cone against my shirt. Her shoulder hit my chest. We froze before she shoved me upright, red-faced. That was when Kayla stopped 3 steps away and hooked her arm through mine. There you are, Kayla told me. Then she looked at Renee's ice cream. Did he buy that for you? Renee stood. He owed me. Kayla narrowed her eyes. For what? Renee's eyes met mine. Emergency services. Nearly choked. One fake bathroom crisis had created a real jealousy problem. Efficient work. On the ride back, Kayla stopped beside a jewelry display and admired a familiar necklace. In my first life, I had saved for months to buy that exact design for her. I thought the gift would finally make her choose me. It only made me easier to use. I bought the necklace. Kayla's face lit up when I handed her the box. Kayla asked, You remembered I liked this? I answered, I remembered everything. She heard romance. I heard a closing account. That's the last gift from the version of me who begged, I told her. Kayla's smile faltered. Then her eyes dropped to the price tag and the smile returned. Renee watched through the store window. Her attention stayed on the box until I turned. The purchase triggered another themed gift. System pet collar acquired. Mild mood and rapport modifier. Cannot compel action or create consent. A black collar appeared in my system inventory. I stared at it. The necklace had cost me closure. The bonus item looked designed to create lawsuits and rumors. Look, I knew the collar was trouble. I just had not met the exact disaster yet. I left it in storage. That night, back in the dorm, Velvet Cucumber sent me a chapter from her romance novel. The heroine changed personality whenever the plot needed a rescue. The arrogant executive won arguments by announcing he was rich. Even Derek would have called the wealth subtle. I marked 3 problems and rewrote 1 scene. Velvet Cucumber replied, You cut half the dialogue. I answered. It repeated the same threat. She pushed back. He's supposed to be dominant. I sent, he can dominate the scene without giving a quarterly presentation. She went silent for 5 minutes. Then she wrote, Your version is better. Online, Renee had accepted my judgment. She had never done that to my face. I sent 1 proposal, co-write the dominant executive novel, split paid chapter income evenly, and let the platform track every dollar. Velvet Cucumber accepted. Our revised chapter went live the next morning. The comments improved. By evening, the dashboard posted our first shared payout. Renee read the number during class and failed to hide her smile. Then she looked up, caught me watching, and returned to her usual expression like joy required authorization. She asked the anonymous stranger for another scene while ignoring Calvin Archer in person. A few days later, Cody dragged me to a dorm friend dinner where Victoria Whitmore sat down. Victoria was the wealthy beauty from international relations. Her family money was campus folklore. Cody moved his plate, the server appeared, and the table lowered its volume before she spoke. She wore a black dress that made every man at the table remember posture. I noticed too. I still remembered how to speak. Victoria looked at me. You're the freshman with the hammer. Cody grinned. Also the one with 3 women feeding him. The sisters-in-law broadcaster had begun his career early. I own 1 hammer, I told Victoria. The women are independent contractors. Victoria laughed and took the seat beside me. 10 minutes later, Renee arrived for the same dorm friend dinner. She saw Victoria leaning close and stopped at the end of the table. Her gaze moved from Victoria's dress to my plate. I held up the takeout box. There's fried rice left. Renee stared at me. You saved me leftovers? I tilted the box. You arrived after the food. Victoria hid a smile behind her glass. Renee took the box, turned, and left. That one hurt more than I expected. I had wanted the reaction. Seeing it still pinched, I followed her outside with fresh fried rice. Renee folded her arms. Give it to Victoria. I held out the container. She has food. Renee looked past me toward the window. She has your attention too. There it was. Renee had finally said the jealous part aloud. I offered the container. Renee refused it and walked away. 5 minutes later, Velvet Cucumber messaged that Calvin Archer was an arrogant show-off dining with a rich girl. I answered from the secret account. I sent, he's playing hot and cold. Velvet Cucumber replied. Why would anyone do that? I wrote, to make a proud woman show what she wants. The read receipt appeared while Renee stood across the street staring at her phone. The deception worked. It also got uglier every time she trusted the hidden version more. Back at the restaurant, Cody invited everyone to karaoke. I refused. The National Investment Challenge was approaching. Its final stage could put $1 million account under the winner's control. I was not trading preparation for off-key singing and another argument over seating. By that night, Cody had broadcast my karaoke refusal to the class group chat. Velvet Cucumber messaged, "So you chose the competition over Victoria?" I wrote, "I chose the competition. Close enough." The next afternoon, Kayla's emergency text pulled me into a restaurant where Renee's wrist was already in a stranger's hand. 3 women had been eating near the back. A group of men blocked their exit. One loud man held Renee and laughed when she ordered him to let go. I walked between the tables. I ordered, "Release her." The man looked at my face and squeezed harder. "Who are you?" I answered, the last polite warning. He shoved Renee aside and swung at me. I read his shoulder before the fist moved. My upgraded cognition caught the angle. The strength and coordination upgrades handled the rest. I stepped inside, caught his wrist, locked the elbow, and drove him face first onto the table without breaking anything important. His friends stood. I twisted once. He yelled for them to sit. They sat. Renee rubbed her wrist. Kayla moved behind me. Jillian grabbed the bags and headed for the door. I released the man. "You're finished." He folded over his arm and stayed there. We left before guards, managers, and amateur lawyers could turn one clean rescue into an evening of procedure. Outside, Renee looked at me. "You followed us?" I pointed at Kayla. Kayla texted. Kayla lifted her phone like evidence of excellent judgment. I looked at Renee. "Congratulations, you finally got the prince rescues princess scene you keep pretending you don't write." Her face went still. The joke was too close to the secret. "That trope is common," Renee snapped. I told her, "Relax, your secret kingdom is safe." She watched me all the way back to campus. The next morning, Professor Madsen caught me solving challenge material during his lecture. Professor Madsen was the finance instructor sponsoring our competition entry. He stopped beside my desk with the expression he used on students working ahead badly. Professor Madsen tapped my challenge sheet. "Since you finished my lesson, teach it." The room turned toward me. Renee crossed her arms. Derek finally smiled after losing his imaginary skyline. I walked to the board. Professor Madsen gave me the hardest problem from the chapter. I solved it, then explained the decision rule in plain language. He added a second problem. I solved that too. By the third, Derek's smile had left again. Professor Madsen set down the marker. "Where did you learn this?" I answered, "I read." He looked at the challenge material on my desk. "Then keep reading. I want you in the national investment team." The competition had just become public, so had the target on my back. Renee gave one sharp laugh and crossed her arms tighter. Professor Madsen let me finish the lesson. When I sat down, classmates crowded my desk for help. Kayla took my left side. Jillian claimed the right. Renee stayed near the aisle and watched every woman crowd me. 2 male classmates who had ignored me asked for my notes. Derek packed up early. That evening, back in the dorm, Velvet Cucumber complained that a smug man in her class had become impossible. I told her, "Then beat him somewhere he can't joke his way out. Make the book succeed." She sent a revised outline within the hour. Then another message arrived. Velvet Cucumber wrote, "I can't make the dominant scene feel real. I need a physical reference for the prop." I opened my system inventory. The pet collar waited there like a bad decision with free shipping. I thought the collar was a stupid bonus item. By Monday, it had embarrassed one woman, dragged a second woman into the rumor, and put a billionaire father on my side. Sunday night, I boxed the system pet collar and mailed it through my anonymous editor account. Renee had asked for a physical prop. Monday at lunch, she set the unopened package beside Victoria's tray. The collar carried a mild mood and rapport modifier. It could never force an action or create consent. That safety rule did nothing for the packaging. Kayla saw the box first. The cafeteria was packed. Renee, Kayla, Jillian, Victoria, and I had one table near the windows. 5 people, 1 private package, and 0 self-control. Kayla tapped the label. "Secret admirer?" Renee pulled the box closer. "Research!" Jillian leaned over her drink. That answer made it worse. Victoria glanced at Renee. "What kind of research arrives without a return name?" Renee's eyes cut toward me. I kept eating. Look, I already knew the box contained trouble, I just wanted to see whether trouble could survive lunch. Renee reached for the tape. Kayla moved faster. Kayla snatched the box, tore one side open, and shook it over the table. A black pet collar dropped onto Victoria's white napkin. The metal ring struck the plate. Everyone at the table heard it. So did the students beside us. Kayla lifted the collar between two fingers. Renee! Renee went pale. Put that down! Jillian read the little instruction card and stopped smiling. Victoria looked from the collar to Renee. You brought this to lunch? Renee grabbed for it. Kayla held it away. Kayla asked, Who sent you a dog collar? Renee snapped. It's a writing reference. 3 nearby students turned around. Victoria raised one eyebrow. You write? Renee had dodged one question and exposed her author's secret instead. She changed direction too fast. It's for a class project, Renee insisted. Kayla looked at the black collar again. Which class? Renee's face tightened. Jillian tried to rescue her. Maybe theater. Victoria touched the metal ring. That prop has better hardware than our theater budget. The table behind us laughed. Renee looked at me. I was the only person at the table who knew why the collar existed. If I explained it, I exposed Velvet Cucumber. I told the table, it's private, give it back. Kayla's smile sharpened. Why are you defending her? I answered. Because opening someone else's package is trashy. Kayla's smile disappeared. She dropped the collar onto the table. I thought it was a joke. Renee snatched it. A student at the next table whispered Victoria's name. Another student lifted a phone. Then somebody asked whether Renee had bought the collar for Victoria. The rumor formed in real time. Victoria's expression hardened. Leave me out of this, Renee tried. It has nothing to do with her. That sentence made half the cafeteria decide it had everything to do with her. The class monitor volcano had finally met an explosion she couldn't organize. I laughed once. Renee turned on me. She slapped me across the face. The whole table went still. Her eyes were wet before her hand dropped. You think this is funny? Renee asked. I stopped smiling. She shoved the collar into the box and walked out while students moved aside. Nobody laughed after she left. The package began as a joke. Renee's tears made it expensive. Kayla stared at the table. Victoria pushed the phone of the nearest student back down. Jillian grabbed Renee's bag and followed her. I paid for 2 ice creams and went after them. The purchase triggered another themed gift before I reached the courtyard. Receptiveness candy acquired. Lowers hesitation toward a request already under consideration. Cannot create desire. Cannot override refusal. 1 wrapped candy appeared in my inventory. The spending system had turned an ice cream apology into the world's most suspicious bonus. Even the tutorial boss had ethics paperwork now. I found Renee behind the arts building. Jillian had given her space and returned to class. Renee sat on a low wall with her arms folded. I offered the ice cream. She did not take it. I sat beside her. I should have stopped laughing when you looked scared. Renee stared ahead. Everyone thinks Victoria and I use dog collars together. I kept my face straight. Laughing again would have been stupid. I set the ice cream beside her. People will get bored if you stop feeding them shame, Renee snapped. Easy for you to say, nobody thinks you're dating Victoria. I told her, give campus time. Her head turned. I raised both hands. Bad timing. Renee picked up the ice cream and took 1 angry bite. I showed her the wrapped candy. The ice cream shop tossed this in. Renee took the promotional candy and unwrapped it. She ate it without ceremony. Then I joked, your cleanest move is walking into Victoria's class and confessing publicly. Renee threw the plastic spoon at my chest. There. Refusal remained fully operational. I caught the spoon. Fine. Serious answer. Pick the version of the story you can live with, then act like everyone else is late. Renee looked down at the melting cup. I added, and stop letting Kayla decide which part of your life becomes public. Renee's jaw tightened. She looked toward the classroom building instead of the ground. I tapped the collar box beside her. You asked for research. Do you still want help testing how the scene works? Renee stared at me. With you? Smiled. You sound interested. She shoved the box into my chest. Absolutely not. Then she stood, took the ice cream and collar box and left me on the wall. The candy had lowered hesitation. Renee had still refused me clearly. That evening in the dorm, Cody shoved a campus clip under my nose. The sisters-in-law broadcaster looked spiritually fulfilled. Your class monitor chose violence, Cody announced. The clip began inside Victoria's International Relations lecture. Renee walked through the door while the professor was still speaking. She crossed to Victoria. Phones rose before Renee grabbed her around the waist and turned toward them. Renee declared, since everyone has decided, Victoria and I are together. Victoria tried to peel her arm away. Renee, release me. Renee tightened the hug. Then Renee held up the collar box. We'll be doing research with the gift, she announced. Students stood, phones lifted higher. The professor stopped mid-sentence. Victoria's face went from cold to dangerous. Renee smiled like public shame had become a shared subscription. Cody replayed the clip. I stopped him before a third viewing. Renee had taken my stupid joke and weaponized the rest. Man, The class monitor volcano had chosen arson. Velvet Cucumber messaged me 10 minutes later. She wrote, Kayla opened that package because she wants Calvin. She wanted me humiliated. I had suspected Kayla. Renee had just accused her out loud. I replied, then make anyone who repeats the rumor pay a social price. Velvet Cucumber wrote, a guy in class is using it to challenge my monitor position. I sent, let him call you unfit in front of everyone. Then ask why he saved and reposted a private clip. Make him explain his obsession aloud. The next morning, Renee caught me outside class. I'm using your move, she told me. If this blows up, it's your fault. 10 minutes later, Renee used it. The class rival stood and called Renee unfit to lead because she had turned herself into campus gossip. Renee asked why he had saved and reposted the private clip. The room laughed at him. He sat down. Nobody repeated his challenge. That night, Velvet Cucumber asked how to make Calvin understand she liked men. I replied, invite him somewhere private before he assumes Victoria has won. She wrote, I'll use an escape room. I can pretend to get scared. I stared at the message. Renee had just explained her plan to the man she planned to use it on. My second life kept handing me advantages. No decent person should enjoy this much. Saturday morning, Renee found me on the campus track and dragged me downtown. She had curled her hair and worn a fitted red top. She looked good. Annoyingly good. I asked, where's Victoria? Renee's eyes narrowed. Why would Victoria come? I reminded her. You two announced a relationship in front of 40 witnesses. Renee hooked her arm through mine. Today is about you. Normal man would have understood. I had upgraded cognition and still chose chaos. The escape room used a fake abandoned workshop. Renee spent the first 10 minutes pretending the props bored her. She brushed my arm twice whenever the lights flickered. I whispered, your fear has excellent timing. Renee whispered back, your ego needs its own ticket. Then the main lights died. A chainsaw engine screamed behind us. Renee's planned performance died. She grabbed my shirt with both hands and climbed halfway behind me. The masked actor charged from the dark. I turned, blocked Renee with my body, and guided us through the next door before she tore my sleeve off. The actor stopped at the boundary. Renee kept holding me. I looked down. Still pretending? Renee released my shirt. I was protecting you, I asked. From behind my spine? She punched my shoulder. Outside the last room, Renee stopped on the sidewalk. She looked down. I need people to see me with a man. I heard the worst version first. So, I'm your emergency certificate? I asked. Renee lifted her head. That's not what I cut her off. Find someone who wants that job. Then I left. Yes, I had outsmarted markets, a rich bully, and a secret author account. A proud woman tried to confess, and I folded like cheap furniture. Renee called Victoria before I reached campus. I learned that part because Victoria texted me 40 minutes later. Victoria wrote, what did you do to Renee? Answered, misunderstood a sentence. Victoria sent, impressive. Dinner? I declined. The finance challenge was getting close. She asked again 3 days later. I declined again. On the third invitation, Victoria sent one line. Renee says you walked out. Come explain yourself. 2 weeks later, I met Victoria at a Japanese restaurant downtown. She arrived in a cream dress and looked expensive enough to make the menu apologize. I noticed. Pettiness had never damaged my eyesight. Victoria sat across from me. You rejected me twice, I answered. I was busy. Victoria lifted her phone. Smile. I did not. She took the photo anyway. The frame showed my hand, her dress, and 2 plates. Her post went live before the server returned. She tagged the restaurant. The caption said, finally, a quiet dinner. I guessed the caption was aimed at Renee. Renee arrived 12 minutes later. She marched to the table, wrapped both arms around Victoria, and put her chin on the heiress's shoulder. Renee announced, you started without me. Victoria's smile tightened. I wasn't aware this was a group reservation. Renee squeezed her. Couple share. My dinner had become a custody dispute between 2 women who claimed they were dating each other to fight over me. Look, I need you to understand how deranged that sentence felt while holding chopsticks. Before either woman could escalate, a server approached Victoria. Miss Whitmore, your father is upstairs with your uncle. Victoria went still. Victoria's father, Randall Whitmore, came down the stairs before she could hide. Randall controlled Whitmore Capital and carried the relaxed posture of a man whose calls got answered. He saw his daughter at dinner with a man and smiled immediately. Then Randall saw Renee wrapped around her. The smile suffered. Victoria, Randall said carefully. Who are your friends? Victoria gestured toward me. Calvin Archer, he's the finance student you've heard about. Randall shook my hand with both of his. The young man from the train incident and the investment team? The campus rumor had reached farther than I expected. Randall invited me upstairs to meet his brother while the women stayed below. On the stairs, I heard the uncle mention Victoria's rejected matches. He asked how Randall planned to hand Whitmore Capital to her alone. Randall answered, I need someone competent beside her, someone she'll actually listen to. That was all I heard before entering. I greeted the uncle, sat when invited, and answered their questions without begging for approval. Randall asked about finance. I gave him one clear answer about risk and cash flow. The uncle asked about my family. I told him I had learned to support myself. Randall poured me tea instead of sending a server. When we returned downstairs, Renee and Victoria had made everything worse. Renee still held Victoria's arm. Victoria had stopped trying to escape and started retaliating. Victoria told Randall, "Renee likes accessories." Renee smiled sweetly. "Victoria likes being in charge." Randall's glass stopped halfway to his mouth. The uncle looked at me like I had entered a disaster site with useful equipment. Renee added, "We'll use the gift together." Randall nearly inhaled his drink. Victoria patted his back. "Dad, breathe." Randall looked from Victoria to Renee, then to me. Randall gripped my shoulder. "Calvin, all three of you are coming to dinner at our home." Victoria frowned. "Why him?" Randall kept his hand on me. "Because I invited him." Renee finally released Victoria. The rumor had started with a collar in a cafeteria. By the time I left dinner, a billionaire father was treating me like the emergency solution. Randall Whitmore's dinner invitation turned the cafeteria rumor into campus politics. The night after Randall's invitation, Cody told me one of Victoria's richest admirers was asking who I was. Dominic Harrow came from an old money family and treated Victoria's attention like inherited property. The legacy peacock had heard her father invite me home. Now he wanted my file. Cody dropped onto my bed. "Dominic asked whether you're actually rich." I looked up from the investment challenge notes. "What did you tell him?" Cody grinned. "I said you own a hammer." Jordan, my cautious roommate, looked up from his desk. "Dominic doesn't ask casual questions. He sends other people until somebody gives him the answer he wants." Cody added, "He also asked whether Victoria sat beside you on purpose." I closed my notebook. "What did you tell him?" Cody smiled wider. "I said she moved Renee's leftovers first." The sisters-in-law broadcaster had answered a status inquiry with romantic arson. Excellent. My financial disclosures had reached the Stone Age. Dominic's family money bought social obedience. Men opened seats for him. Clubs returned his calls. That week, I watched Victoria walk past him in the student center without slowing. I guessed he hated being the only rich man she treated like furniture with a watch. That combination usually created a public mistake. Later that night, the publishing dashboard posted another payout from the novel. I sent Renee her half through the anonymous account. Velvet Cucumber replied, "I need more money." I asked, "New laptop?" She wrote, "A wealthy woman is competing for the man I like." The message sat on my screen while Renee studied 3 desks away. I replied, "Compete with achievement and appearance. Money notices both." She sent, "Which matters more?" I wrote, "Achievement keeps him. A good dress makes the rival panic first." Velvet Cucumber sent, "What if the rich woman already looks better?" I replied, "Then earn enough to stop measuring yourself with her ruler." 3 dots appeared, vanished, and returned. She wrote, "You make everything sound easy." I answered, "No. I make excuses sound expensive." Renee looked up from her phone and caught me smiling. The class monitor volcano narrowed her eyes. Good. The anonymous account had given Renee a plan. Across the room, the real Renee watched me over her phone. Monday morning, Professor Madsen, our finance professor, wrote the National Investment Challenge on the board. The challenge had 3 stages: test accounts, larger accounts, then a public national ranking. Professor Madsen capped his marker. The top result reaches the $1 million final account. The class started whispering. Renee raised her hand. "Can students make side wagers?" Professor Madsen looked at me and sighed before Renee spoke. "I'm not enforcing your personal nonsense," he warned. Renee stood and faced my desk. "You keep acting like you can beat everyone," I answered. "Only the people volunteering." Few men laughed. Renee walked closer. Renee proposed, "I get a 20% head start because you joined late." I nodded. "What happens when you waste it?" Her smile sharpened. "If I win, you don't date anyone for the rest of college." The men in the room became suddenly invested in female empowerment. One classmate shouted, "Take the deal!" Another started calculating 4 years of reduced competition. I looked at Renee. "You want 4 years of control?" Renee folded her arms. "Scared?" I asked. "Expensive question. What do I get?" She considered it. Renee answered, "1, unconditional forgiveness. You do one thing and I forgive it without asking why." That reward had suspiciously broad applications. I held out my hand. 20%, 4 years, 1 forgiveness. Renee shook it. Then she took Professor Madsen's marker and wrote the terms on the corner of the board. "Renee, 20% advantage. Calvin loses. No dating through graduation." Renee loses. 1, unconditional forgiveness. The class photographed the board before Professor Madsen could erase it. The bet stopped being flirting the moment witnesses saved the terms. Professor Madsen looked at our joined hands. "You two turned portfolio management into a custody dispute," I told him. "The stakes improve attention." He walked away before we could involve him further. The room split immediately. Several men supported Renee because my dating ban benefited them. You know how principled men become when another man's dating life is on the line. Kayla supported me loudly enough to make Renee regret the wager before trading began. Kayla caught me after class near the campus gate. She wore a softer expression and held 2 park tickets. Kayla offered, "We can go Saturday, no pressure, I can wait until you're ready." In my first life, that patient smile had kept me buying gifts for months. This time, the performance arrived after she saw the laptop, the condos rumor, and 3 women circling. I returned 1 ticket. "I'm training Saturday." Kayla touched my sleeve. "Next week then," I told her. "I'll still be busy." Kayla tucked both tickets into her bag. "I'm patient." The gold digger with a calculator had finally become the one waiting. I stepped away. "Good luck with the holding period." She smiled instead of folding. The woman who once kept me waiting now stood at the gate with 2 unused tickets. That felt good. It also meant the women were beginning to compete for slots in my schedule. 3 days later, in the computer lab, every student opened the same test account. The first round had one simple rule: grow the account before Friday's cutoff. Most students spread their virtual money across 6 or 7 stocks. I put every dollar into one neglected logistics company. The allocation bar hit 100%. A classmate behind me laughed. "Diversification exists for a reason," I answered. "So does knowing when to sell." Professor Madsen stopped beside my screen. "Why that company?" I pointed at the chart. "Orders are climbing." Panic crushed the price. "It rebounds before Friday." The orders and price were visible. Friday came from First Life Memory. Renee leaned over from the next terminal. "All of it?" I answered. "Every dollar." The stock dipped before lunch. A classmate behind me announced the loss loud enough for the room. "The genius is already bleeding." I left the position untouched. Professor Madsen watched my screen. Renee watched my face. The men who wanted my dating ban started celebrating a result that had not finished moving. By the next morning, the price recovered. Before the cutoff, buyers flooded in and the chart climbed hard. The same classmates stopped narrating my account. Renee studied the chart, then bought the same stock with most of her account. The class groaned. Renee smiled. "You didn't say copying was banned." The rules had never said it was. She had taken my move and kept enough cash to protect herself. Smart, annoying, and attractive in the worst possible way. At lunch, Victoria waved me toward a table where Dominic Harrow was already seated. Dominic wore a watch that could have paid my old annual salary. He looked from my shirt to the empty chair before I sat down. Victoria gestured to the empty chair. "Calvin, sit," Dominic asked. "This is the stock student?" I sat. "This is the admirer conducting background checks?" Victoria took a drink to hide her smile. Dominic leaned back. "I'm making sure Victoria isn't wasting time on a lucky freshman?" I asked. "Does she usually require your approval?" Dominic looked at Victoria. "People around her should understand the difference between attention and access." There it was. Class contempt wearing cologne. Victoria glanced at me. "Are you nervous about the ranking?" I reached over and patted the top of her head. "Relax," I told her. "Your guest is doing enough worrying for both of us." Victoria froze under my hand. Dominic's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. The entire table understood the challenge before anyone spoke. Victoria slowly removed my hand. "You're reckless," I answered. "You invited an audience." Dominic's face hardened. "Don't touch her like that." Victoria turned toward him. "I can speak for myself." The legacy peacock had arrived to protect his territory. Victoria stripped his authority in one sentence. I finished lunch. Dominic stayed quiet while Victoria kept talking to me. By Friday, the provisional national rankings filled the lecture hall screen. Professor Madsen enlarged the top 10. My name sat at number 7. For 3 seconds nobody spoke, then voices hit at once. Kayla grabbed my shoulder. Jillian shouted my name. The men who had backed Renee started checking whether the dating ban had an appeal process. Professor Madsen pointed at the screen. 7th nationally, best provisional rank this campus has ever posted. Renee stayed seated. I looked at her account on the class leaderboard. She had copied the stock, sold near the top, and preserved enough cash to avoid the late drop. After her 20% advantage, she sat only 1.2% behind me. Renee walked to the screen and circled both returns with Professor Madsen's marker. "Only 1.2%, she told me. "I'm taking the lead next round." I leaned back. "Catch me first." The men who had celebrated my early dip stopped treating Renee like a joke. Half the class moved closer to her screen for explanations. The other half stayed around mine. The bet had created 2 camps and one very public countdown. Renee met my eyes. "You haven't earned that forgiveness," I answered. "You haven't earned my celibacy." Jillian choked on her drink. Renee smiled despite herself. Renee stayed dangerous. "Good. A weak rival would have killed the bet after 1 round. After the lecture hall emptied, Victoria appeared outside with Dominic a few steps behind her and looked at the number twice. "You're 7th?" Victoria asked. I told her. "The screen seems confident." She walked beside me without answering. Dominic asked Victoria where they were going. Victoria did not slow down. I'm congratulating the person who earned something. The legacy peacock stopped in the hallway while Victoria left with me. Background check complete. That afternoon, my face and provisional rank appeared on screens and posters across Crestview State. Someone had turned a first-round result into a campus-wide spectacle. One poster called me the campus's best chance at a national finish. Another printed my student photo across an entire wall. I guessed whoever chose that placement wanted pressure and embarrassment together. Petty work. I respected the ambition. Students stopped me for photos. Men called the rank temporary. Women who had never spoken to me suddenly needed investing advice. A senior outside the cafeteria shouted that 7th place was a participation trophy. 2 minutes later, his girlfriend asked me which stock I had bought. He stopped shouting. Look, 7th place was provisional. The campus still turned every hallway into a public test. I traced the poster request through one department email Professor Madsen showed me. The request had come through a school board contact tied to the Whitmore family. I suspected Victoria. I waited until she admitted it. An hour after the posters went up, the department director walked into my dorm. Cody nearly hid the hammer. The director offered me a private study room, travel support, access to main campus research material, and an interview slot with national organizers. He also told Professor Madsen to clear my schedule before challenge deadlines. The same campus that had barely found me a dorm room now rearranged classes around my account. Cody moved his laundry off the good chair before the director sat down. Jordan closed the hammer drawer. Victoria called while the director was still standing beside my bed. Victoria asked, "Enjoying the attention?" I put her on speaker. "The department just gave me a private room and travel money," I answered. "Thank your board contact." Silence. Then Victoria said, "I wanted to see whether pressure would make you crack." I looked at the director, Cody, and Jordan. "It made them fund me," I told her. Cody covered his mouth. Victoria ended the call. The heiress with a leash had tried to tighten public pressure. She had promoted me instead. Beautiful mistake. That night, 2 messages arrived within 1 minute. Eliza texted first. She wrote, "I'm coming Saturday with Aubrey Sinclair, my college roommate. I want to see you." The school goddess from my first life was finally walking onto my campus. Then Victoria messaged, "My parents want the finance prodigy at dinner. Don't make me ask 3 times again." The woman I once wanted most was coming to meet the women already fighting over me. Meanwhile, Victoria's family had decided my rank belonged at their table. Friday night, Victoria called with the reason her parents wanted dinner. Randall's stock account had taken a heavy loss. He wanted the nationally ranked freshman to review it, and Victoria's mother, Diane Whitmore, wanted Victoria to bring another classmate. The family invitation carried money, matchmaking, and one very annoyed heiress. Jordan had gone home Friday to escort his sister and her roommate back to Crestview. I knew about the trip. I did not know the sister was Eliza. Saturday afternoon, Eliza stepped off the train with Aubrey Sinclair and stared at the face the system had rebuilt. Aubrey was Eliza's college roommate. She said she came to support Eliza and check whether my campus posters were lying. Eliza stopped 3 feet from me. "Calvin?" she asked. I smiled carefully. The missing tooth still punished enthusiasm. Eliza walked around me once. "You got taller," I told her. "Rhett's family funded research and development." Her eyes narrowed at the tooth gap. "You're still making that joke?" I said. "I pay for lifetime rights." Aubrey looked me over and smiled. The poster didn't mention the mouth. Eliza gave her a warning look. Aubrey lifted both hands. "I'm observing." The quiet wildcard had good timing. Then Jordan Keller stepped off the same train carrying Eliza's second bag. Jordan was my cautious roommate. The family errand made sense 1 second later. I stared at him. Jordan stared back. Eliza looked between us. "You two know each other?" "Jordan is my brother." Jordan adjusted the bag. "He sleeps across from my bed." I pointed at him. "You never mentioned the goddess was your sister." Jordan's face tightened. "You never mentioned you called my sister a goddess." Aubrey laughed. Eliza covered her face. Jordan leaned close to me. "I've heard the campus stories," I asked. "Which one?" Jordan answered. "All of them." He counted on his fingers. "The hammer, the women, the hospital money, and the posters." I glanced at Eliza. "You told him about the train?" Eliza answered. "Of course. He called the hospital before I did." Jordan had called the hospital after Red attacked me. Now he lived across from my hammer and inspected me like another possible problem. The universe enjoyed administrative comedy. Jordan raised his voice so Eliza and Aubrey could hear. "My future brother-in-law has been busy." Eliza slapped his arm. Aubrey laughed harder. The reluctant brother-in-law had entered the chat, and my peaceful weekend died on the platform. I took Eliza and Aubrey to campus while Jordan carried the bags and stared down every woman who looked at me. Crestview's posters handled the introduction before I could. Aubrey stopped beside one. "7th nationally." Eliza read the rank, then looked at me. "You've changed a lot." Her tone held no accusation. That made the line heavier. I told her, "I'm trying." At the student lounge, a crowd had gathered under my ranking poster. A classmate backed into Eliza while carrying drinks. Eliza stumbled and landed sideways across my lap. I caught her waist before she hit the floor. For 1 second, the old-school goddess was sitting on the former doormat while half the lounge watched. Look, the delivery was accidental. I still appreciated it. Eliza started to stand. Kayla pushed through the poster crowd at that exact moment. The gold digger with a calculator stopped beside our table and looked at my hands around Eliza's waist. Who is she? Kayla asked. Eliza stood quickly. Eliza Sutton. Calvin and I went to school together. Kayla looked at me. Your ex? I answered. No. Eliza added, he had a crush on me. Aubrey took a slow drink. She had chosen a front row seat to a demolition. Eliza touched the back of the chair beside me. Calvin and I were never together. Kayla asked. Did he ask? Eliza looked at me. Several times. His technique needed medical attention. Aubrey laughed. I accepted the damage. Old me had earned it. Kayla's smile returned too brightly. Past tense? Before Eliza could answer, Renee walked into the lounge. Renee saw Eliza, Kayla, and the poster above my shoulder. Her expression sharpened. The class monitor Volcano pulled out a chair without being invited. Renee asked, who's visiting? Kayla answered first. Calvin's first love, Eliza corrected her. First crush. Renee looked Eliza over. Her eyes dropped once, then returned to her face. That was the famous school goddess? Renee asked. Calvin's memory gave you more curves? Eliza's smile vanished. Kayla looked delighted. Aubrey set down her drink. The lounge around us began paying attention. Renee had made the insult personal and public. I used a line from the unpublished chapter Renee had sent through her Velvet Cucumber account. Enough, I told Renee. If you need to insult her body, you're already losing. Renee froze. Renee went pale, then flushed. Her face told me she recognized it. Nobody outside her author account should have known it. Eliza watched Renee instead of me. Renee lowered her eyes. That was rude. Eliza, I'm sorry. The apology shocked Kayla more than the insult. Renee Chandler had apologized in public. The class monitor almost never apologized. The students around us changed posture. Kayla lost the easy spectacle she wanted. Aubrey relaxed her grip on the cup. Eliza gained the room without raising her voice. Eliza nodded once. Accepted. Renee stood. Her eyes stayed on me. I need to speak with you later, she warned. I answered, get in line. Kayla tapped the table. There's a line? Aubrey finally laughed into her hand. The collision broke apart before anyone threw a drink. Kayla left with her phone already out. Renee left with her eyes fixed on me. Aubrey went with Jordan to tour campus. Eliza and I walked toward the quiet garden behind the library. The noise dropped away. She stopped beside a bench and faced me. Eliza said, I liked you on the train. I stayed quiet. She continued, you were hurt and you still worried about what Rhett was doing to everyone else. My father saw it too. Her hands tightened around the strap of her bag. I'm willing to try this seriously, Eliza told me. We can finish school, improve together, marry when we're ready, and build something stable. She had offered the future I begged for in my first life. Money never entered the conversation. I kept my mouth shut because a joke would have cheapened it. You were the goddess in my head for years, I told her. Part of me still wants that future. Eliza waited. I made myself finish. I'm chasing money, status, and payback. I'm lying to people I care about. I can't promise you a clean life while I'm still choosing that fight. Eliza's eyes shone. She held my gaze. She stepped closer. You don't have to be finished. Let me stand beside you while you build. That offer hit harder than a confession. She had seen the ambition and stayed. Then tell me you don't want me, she said. I could not. I want you, I admitted. I'm not ready to take your whole future. Eliza nodded slowly. Don't make me wait forever, Calvin. I reached for her hand, then stopped. She walked back toward Aubrey without taking it. I had asked for time. Now she could spend that time anywhere. That evening, Renee texted while I was buying fruit for the Whitmore dinner. Renee wrote, where did you hear that line? I replied, it was good. She sent, that doesn't answer me. I put the phone away as Renee entered the store. Renee had invited herself as the second guest before Victoria could object. Renee took one look at my fruit basket. That's what you bring to billionaires? I held up an orange. This fruit has a successful combat history. The missing tooth receipt and the orange had become my cheapest running assets. Renee replaced the orange with an expensive box. Try not to embarrass me, looked at her fitted black dress. You came prepared to handle the embarrassment yourself. Renee's mouth curved. You noticed, I told her. I have repaired eyesight. She moved closer. Do you think Victoria is prettier? Answered. She has rich girl beauty. Everything looks professionally funded. Renee's smile died. I added, you look dangerous when you stop asking for approval. Renee smiled again, slower this time. Renee touched the fruit box. And the dominant scenes? I asked. What about them? Renee said. You act like you understand women who want control. I leaned closer. I understand women who keep challenging a man because asking nicely would expose them. Renee held my gaze. Then she put another orange in the basket. Customer loyalty, she said. The class monitor Volcano had stolen my line. I respected the theft. That evening, Renee and I carried fruit into the Whitmore mansion because Victoria's parents had ordered a dinner. Diane Whitmore, Victoria's mother, met us in the entry hall. She was polite, composed, and observant enough to notice every glance before Randall finished welcoming us. Randall gripped my shoulder again. The finance prodigy made it. Victoria came down the stairs. He has a name, Dad. Randall waved toward the dining room. Then sit beside Calvin and use it. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Diane guided Renee across the table and seated me between Victoria and Randall. Nobody explained the plan. The seats made the matchmaking obvious. Dinner began politely. That lasted 1 glass of wine. Randall asked about the national rank. I explained the current result and the risk of treating one round like a championship. Diane asked whether I was seeing anyone. Victoria answered for me. He collects misunderstandings. Renee lifted her glass. And women. I looked between them. I brought fruit. Both of you brought accusations. Randall laughed too loudly. Diane watched Victoria's face. Diane asked Renee how she knew me. Renee answered that I was an irritating classmate. Victoria corrected her and called me an irritating investment risk. Randall smiled at both answers like he had heard 2 recommendations. You know where this was going. The second glass removed restraint and coordination. Renee missed the coaster twice before landing her glass on it. Victoria laughed too hard, stole Renee's water, and nearly knocked her own fork onto the floor. Diane moved the bottle out of reach. Randall switched to water. Renee pointed her fork at Victoria. Your father thinks Calvin can redirect you. Victoria leaned closer. Your class thinks a dog collar redirected you, Renee said. Men love pretending they control the leash. Victoria smiled. Until somebody brings candles. Diane carried the candles to the sideboard. Randall switched to water and looked at me like I was the emergency contact. I told the women, you're discussing novel research in front of parents. Renee pointed at me. He's worse than the men in the novel. Victoria nodded. He charges interest on compliments. Diane looked at me. Do you? Answered. Only when they pay late. Victoria's mouth twitched. Renee kicked my shoe under the table and almost missed. Randall looked at me. Calvin, are they always like this? I answered. I'm seeing the premium package tonight. That earned 1 laugh from Diane. Renee lifted her glass again. And we haven't even discussed the whips. Randall choked on his water. Diane closed her eyes for 1 second, then looked at me like this had become my department. After dinner, Randall pulled me into his study while Diane kept the women downstairs. He had drunk enough to become direct. Calvin, become my son-in-law, Randall told me. I stared at him. He opened a desk drawer and placed a $500,000 check on the table. This is a management advance, Randall explained. The investment principal remains ours. You receive an agreed share of profit. The check stayed between us. Randall watched my face, then he pushed it closer. Manage the account, help Victoria, let the rest develop. Through the study door, Victoria and Renee were arguing over who had insulted men first. Diane watched them with the calm of a woman updating a family emergency plan. The number on the check was real enough to make my pulse jump. I accepted the account because I wanted the money and the opportunity. It also tied my reputation to a family that interpreted every glance as courtship. Randall clapped my shoulder. Good man. The father speed running the wedding had upgraded from invitation to capital. After midnight, the campus gates were locked. Renee could barely walk, so I carried her toward the nearest hotel while 2 students at the gate watched the rumor pass them. Inside the room, Renee grabbed my shirt. You quoted my line, she mumbled. You need water. She leaned closer, knocked the wine across the bed, then vomited down my shirt. Romance left through the emergency exit. I put Renee on the clean side, slept in the chair, and left 1 note. Nothing happened. You spilled red wine, attacked my shirt, and lost to your own stomach. Before breakfast, my super sim rang. I answered from the lobby through the voice filter. Morning, Renee demanded. Where are you? At home. Why? Paper rustled on her end. She had found the note. Her voice dropped. Nothing. The filter survived. By noon, Kayla was asking classmates whether Renee had spent the night with me. That afternoon, Renee cornered me outside class. She admitted the red stain had scared her before she found the note. Then she called the note smug. I accused her of assaulting an innocent shirt. She blocked me. I blocked her back. I checked an hour later. Her block was still there. Next morning, after the stain panic and phone test, I signed up for serious training. The live phase of the finance challenge was approaching. My body had improved. I wanted strength. I could prove without a system screen. While I wrapped my hands, the old pattern came back clearly. Kayla had accepted my gifts while keeping me useful and uncertain. Jillian had ignored the old me until my face and status changed. Renee had bullied me because poor, weak Calvin looked safe to step on. People had used my kindness as permission. This time, anyone who stepped on me would feel me step back. I tightened the gym wraps and started training for the next round. Randall's check tied part of my new life to Victoria's family. The next time Victoria called me a dog, she brought a leash and a price. Friday night, at a restaurant near campus, I spent my first competition bonus on the people closest to me. Randall's $500,000 check still sat in my account. Victoria's family money had already changed how people looked at me. The next question was simple. What would Victoria demand for it? First, I had dinner to ruin. I had invited Renee, Kayla, Jillian, Cody, and a few dorm friends. Renee refused within 10 seconds. Renee texted, "I'm busy," replied, "Fine, I'll read chapter 12 aloud and ask the table who Velvet Cucumber based the villain on." Renee arrived before the appetizers. The class monitor volcano dropped into the empty chair beside me. "You're blackmailing an author you claim you don't know." I offered her the menu. "I'm supporting local literature." She kicked my ankle under the table. In my defense, Renee had worn a fitted red dress to a casual dinner. The dress had declared war before she sat down. Cody Maddox watched the kick and raised his glass. "First sister-in-law has arrived," Kayla pointed at herself. "First?" Jillian leaned toward Cody. "Please continue, I want to watch him die." The sisters-in-law broadcaster had a full audience and no survival instinct. I tapped my glass before Cody created a family tree. "The challenge paid a small bonus," I told the table. "You helped me survive the first rounds, so dinner is mine." The server brought more food. Kayla stopped pretending she had eaten. Jillian stole food from my plate. Renee stole the better seat by moving her chair closer. Everyone behaved for almost 4 minutes. Tragic. I set down my fork. "I also have news. The main campus wants me full-time. I may transfer." Renee's hand stopped over her glass. Kayla asked, "When?" Jillian frowned. "You just got here." Renee stared at me. "You can't transfer during this term." I let the silence work, then I smiled. "Correct. Professor Madsen offered more research access. The transfer window is closed." Renee's stare sharpened. "That was a prank?" I nodded. "A successful one." Renee leaned across the table. "What about the challenge? Our wager? What about—" She stopped before saying novel. I lowered my voice. "What about the book, Renee?" Her eyes widened. Then she grabbed a dinner roll and threw it at my chest. The roll bounced into Cody's soup. Cody lifted it with his spoon. "Domestic conflict. Beautiful." Renee pointed at me. "Do that again and I'll transfer you through a window." The fake announcement had lasted 20 seconds. It still exposed how fast Renee hated the idea of me leaving. I enjoyed that result more than the bonus. Cody reached for Renee's phone when it buzzed beside her plate. "Which sister-in-law is missing?" he asked. Renee slapped his hand away. The screen lit again. Victoria Whitmore had messaged her. Victoria asked, "Are you on campus? My mother wants the class notes you mentioned." Renee typed, "I'm in my room." Cody had already taken a group photo on his own phone. He leaned over Renee's shoulder and saw Victoria's name. "Invite the rich sister-in-law," Cody announced. Renee snapped, "Don't." Cody sent Victoria the photo anyway. Look, Cody could turn one button into a natural disaster. That was his gift. 10 minutes after Renee lied that she was home, Victoria walked into the restaurant. She wore a white coat over a black dress and carried a thin family account statement in one hand. Every conversation near the entrance dropped in volume. The heiress with a leash found our table, looked at Renee, then looked at the group photo on her phone. "Nice dorm room," Victoria told Renee. Renee folded her arms. "I changed plans." Victoria placed the account statement beside my plate. So did I. Line at the top showed that Victoria's mother, Diane Whitmore, had authorized access that evening. My name sat beside Randall's management advance and the account he wanted me to handle. Kayla read the tension and moved her drink out of range. Jillian pulled out another chair. "We ordered too much food." I waved the server over. "Add one place." Victoria looked at me. "You're inviting me?" I answered. "You crossed town carrying paperwork. At least earn dessert." Cody lifted his glass. "Second sister-in-law has arrived." Victoria turned toward him. "Second?" Cody pointed at Renee. Renee pointed at me. "Calvin encourages him," I answered. "Cody arrived broken. I'm managing symptoms." Victoria sat beside me anyway. That choice moved Renee's chair another inch closer until I sat between both women. Renee leaned toward Victoria. "You came because Cody sent a picture?" Victoria opened the menu. "I came because Calvin's name is inside my family account." The table went quiet. I raised my glass. "To friendship. Apparently it now requires financial disclosure." Victoria ate with us instead of creating a scene. That restraint worried me more than shouting. After dinner, I stood to pay and head for the gym. Victoria rose at the same time. Outside the restaurant, she caught my arm before I reached the corner. The street was bright enough for the dinner table to see us through the windows. Cody immediately pressed his face to the glass. Victoria held up the statement. "My mother gave me access tonight. Dad paid you $500,000. I looked at the page. Management advance. Victoria's mouth hardened. "You took money from my father, accepted his account, and sat at our table while he planned our future. I answered. He planned. I ate. She stepped closer. You're his hired dog. There it was. The word hit the same old wound. People saw money, kindness, or need and assumed they owned the person receiving it. I kept my voice flat. Dogs get fed. You brought terms. Victoria opened a second screen on her phone. Her family trust, liquid allowance, shares, and vehicles carried an asset scale near $20 million. Only a smaller liquid account could move immediately. That was enough. The rest was pressure she could grow later. Victoria listed her demands. You answer when I call, attend family events, and help with the accounts. When I tell you to stay away from Renee, you stay away. I asked. Anything else? Victoria added. We present a relationship, publicly. My parents stop panicking, and you keep access to capital. I looked toward the restaurant window. Cody, Kayla, Jillian, and Renee were pretending badly to ignore us. Victoria offered the first number. I can place $1 million under your management. I laughed once. She narrowed her eyes. What's funny? You want my phone, schedule, reputation, family appearances, and dating life? I told her. $1 million barely covers the inconvenience. Victoria stared. You're negotiating? I'm rejecting a cheap leash. Her jaw tightened. You already work for my father. I stepped closer. Your father hired my skill. You're trying to date me through account control. Victoria's eyes flashed. This is fake. I counted her terms on my fingers. Daily calls, family dinners, public photos, other women require permission. I looked at her. That's dating with terrible branding. Victoria lowered her voice. You think I want you? Answered. You crossed town in that dress to threaten me under a restaurant window. Her eyes dropped to my mouth for one quick second. I caught it. She recovered. Prove it. The dinner group had come outside. Cody stood nearest the door with his phone lowered for once. Renee was behind him, watching Victoria's lipstick in my hands. I took Victoria's wrist and pulled her one step closer. Last chance, I told her. Victoria lifted her chin. You wouldn't dare! Stopped close enough for her to move. Victoria stayed where she was. I put one hand at her waist and kissed her. Victoria froze. The street went quiet around us. Then her fingers tightened against my shirt. I ended the kiss before Cody could turn it into a wedding announcement. Victoria stared at me. Her lipstick had shifted, her shock vanished, her jaw locked, and her eyes flicked toward the witnesses. She raised one hand. Cody's phone came up. Victoria saw the witnesses and lowered it. That was my first kiss, she told me. I answered, you put it inside the relationship terms. She shoved my chest. You are unbelievable, I smiled. Raise the account. Victoria looked ready to commit a felony with a handbag. Then she said, $1 million to start, Monday. The hired dog had rejected the leash, kissed the heiress, and turned her threat into a $1 million starting account. Beautiful. Absolutely irresponsible. Still beautiful. Renee walked straight toward us. Back inside, Renee saw Victoria's lipstick and walked straight over. Renee caught Victoria's chin between two fingers. What happened outside? Victoria pulled free. Ask Calvin. Renee looked at the damaged lipstick, then at mine. You kissed her, Renee told me. I answered, the fake relationship needed proof. Renee's smile became dangerously calm. Proof creates relationships now? Victoria crossed her arms. Apparently. Renee turned back to Victoria. Then our rumor deserves equal documentation. Renee grabbed Victoria's shoulders and kissed her once, quick and public. Victoria jerked back. Cody dropped a fork. Kayla covered her mouth. Jillian whispered, this dinner is never ending. Renee wiped the corner of Victoria's lipstick with her thumb. There, Renee said. Now nobody owns the evidence. Victoria stared at her. You're insane. Renee pointed at me. He started it. I told them, excellent teamwork. The family will love this update. Cody had already sent the story into the dorm chat. By midnight, the rumor had reached Victoria's family circle. Diane texted Victoria 3 question marks. Randall called me once, then hung up before I answered. The father's speed running the wedding had encountered a route change. Later that night at the gym, I messaged Eliza about the dinner I owed her. I wrote, Tuesday evening? Aubrey answered in our small group thread first. I'm free, Eliza replied a minute later. Let's make it a group dinner for now. I read both messages twice. Old me would have treated one fast reply as a marriage proposal. Adult me had survived that software bug. Aubrey's quick answer had changed Eliza's invitation. I had enough women arguing over me, so I left the reason alone. My anonymous account lit up next. Velvet Cucumber wrote, Victoria kissed me. I kissed her back. Calvin watched. I'm furious. I replied, you keep spending time with everyone except the person making you angry. She sent, that sounds like fake psychology. I wrote, then test it. Spend 1 hour alone with him. Velvet Cucumber asked, where? Answered, somewhere you can't hide behind class monitor business. 5 minutes later, Renee texted my real phone. Meet me outside the library. At 11, Renee waited beneath the library lights in a dark coat. Her anger had survived dinner and improved during transit. She stepped into my path. You think kissing Victoria makes you brave? I answered. You kissed her too. That was retaliation. Very civic-minded. Renee moved closer. You keep acting like you understand what I want, I asked. Then say it. She held my gaze. Would you go to a hotel with me? The challenge sat between us. I smiled. Would you actually enter? Renee's cheeks warmed. Pick the hotel, told her. The presidential suite would scare you back into the lobby. She scoffed. Send the address. Before I could answer, Victoria's car left the far side of campus. Renee saw it and turned. She's going to meet you. Lifted my empty hands. I'm standing here. Renee ignored that excellent evidence and followed Victoria. Victoria drove home because Diane was ill. Renee discovered that at the Whitmore front door. I learned the rest when Victoria called me from the entry hall and put the phone on speaker. Victoria snapped. Your class monitor followed me home because she thought I was meeting you. Renee cut in from beside her. You left campus after midnight right after I asked Calvin for a hotel address. What was I supposed to think? My mother is sick, Victoria answered. Some people have families. Renee's anger dropped. Is Diane okay? Victoria's voice softened. She will be. Renee stopped arguing. Then Victoria made it messy again. You're still chasing my fake boyfriend, she told Renee. Renee answered. You're still calling him fake while using family money to keep him. Victoria looked toward the phone. Calvin, say something. I told them, you both followed the wrong person tonight. I'm impressed. Renee ignored me. I'm not surrendering him. Victoria replied. Neither am I. They had finally said the quiet part aloud without ending the friendship. Victoria told me, she's staying here tonight. I'm keeping her away from your hotel dare, Renee protested. Victoria ended the call. 1 minute later, Renee texted me privately. Tomorrow night, presidential suite, send the address, I replied. You should stay home. Renee sent one final message. Coward! I pretended to refuse because I knew her pride would do the rest. At 10 the next night, I rented the presidential suite at the Meridian Grand Hotel. The Meridian Grand was the luxury hotel near campus where I had rented expensive rooms before. I still paid night by night. The annual deal did not exist yet. Renee had demanded the address. I sent the room number and one warning. Stay home if you're coming to prove a point, she replied. Open the door. The class monitor Volcano had already reached the elevator. I paid the suite charge. The spending system chimed before the receipt printed. Themed gift acquired, hotel reimbursement card. Eligible hotel charges receive an 80% reimbursement after payment. Points accrue only on Calvin Archer's actual out-of-pocket cost. The card could make future hotel bills much smaller. First, I had to survive the woman walking toward it. Renee knocked once. I opened the door. She wore a black dress under a short coat. Her hair was loose, and her expression said she had rehearsed control during the elevator ride. In my defense, I noticed the dress before I noticed her plan. Renee stepped past me. You really rented the presidential suite. I closed the door. You asked for Courage. Courage has room service. She walked through the living room, touched the marble bar, and looked toward the bedroom. The suite had floor-to-ceiling windows, a private dining area, and enough space to make a freshman look financially suspicious. Renee turned slowly. How much did this cost? I answered. You came to discuss money? I came to make sure Victoria understands something. Romance. Renee took off her coat. Call her. I sat on the sofa. What do I get? Her eyes narrowed. You invited me. I answered. You demanded the room number. Renee shot back. And you sent it. I nodded. Then you entered. Renee walked closer. You're enjoying this. I looked up at her. You wore that dress to a hotel challenge. Let's respect the evidence. A hotel attendant knocked with the welcome tray before Renee answered. The attendant entered, saw Renee standing over me, and placed 2 champagne glasses beside the fruit. Will Mr. and Mrs. Archer need breakfast at 8? The attendant asked. Renee's face turned red. I opened my mouth. Renee answered first. 9! The attendant nodded and left. I looked at her. Mrs. Archer? Renee pointed toward the door. She assumed. You confirmed. I corrected the breakfast time. Look, she had confirmed breakfast for both of us. I was enjoying it. Renee picked up my phone. Tell Victoria I'm here. I took the phone back. Price first. She folded her arms. You're charging me? You want public exclusivity. That costs more than one angry entrance. Renee leaned over me. Tell her you chose me and I'll give you what you want. I asked. Everything? Her confidence flickered. Within reason. Your reason has a history of throwing bread. Renee grabbed my jaw and kissed me once hard enough to end the joke. She pulled back. That was the deposit. I looked at her. Dangerous payment method. Renee moved between my knees and the coffee table. What do you want? She asked. I answered honestly. A choice you make yourself, with no collar, candy, or games. Her expression changed. The jokes left the room. I asked, Are you here because you chose this? Renee held my gaze. Yes, I asked. Are you sober? Yes, I asked. Do you want me to stop? No. Then Renee grabbed my shirt and kissed me. Her first kiss with me was aggressive, competitive, and completely on brand. I stood and pulled her closer. She kissed me again, slower this time. When I reached for the bedroom door, I stopped. Renee touched my hand. I said, "Yes, Calvin, lock the door." The sweet lights dimmed. The rest stayed behind that door. Later, Renee sat beside me in one of the hotel robes. A faint red line from the harmless prop cuffs crossed one wrist. She covered it with the sleeve when she noticed me looking. She leaned back against the sofa. "I could tolerate being fourth." I turned toward her. "Fourth? Eliza, Victoria, Kayla, whoever else your ego recruits." I laughed. "You ranked yourself inside my dating life?" Renee looked at me. "Fourth place can still win a long competition. You turned romance into portfolio strategy? You started it." She demanded I tell Victoria we had spent the night together. I refused. Renee's mouth tightened. "You kissed her publicly," I answered. "You kissed her publicly too," Renee shot back. "That was tactical." "So was mine," I told her. Renee threw a pillow at me. The relationship had crossed a line and immediately resumed fighting. Honestly, that was the most Renee outcome available. By breakfast, Renee wore long sleeves and a cold expression. The attendant returned at 9 with 2 trays. Renee stared at the name card that read Mr. and Mrs. Archer, then put it face down. I asked, "Keeping the souvenir?" She answered, "I'm keeping evidence of hotel incompetence." She left without kissing me goodbye. Before the elevator closed, Renee said, "Last night changes nothing." I told her, "You confirmed breakfast." The doors shut on her glare. By the time I returned to the dorm, Renee had blocked my real number again. Cody met me at the door with both hands raised. A lobby photo of Renee entering the Meridian had reached him during the night, and he had forwarded it to the dorm chat. "I thought it was funny," Cody admitted. "I set my bag down." "How many people saw it?" Jordan answered for him. "Enough." I opened the hammer drawer. Cody stepped back. "I'm deleting everything." Closed the drawer. "Relax. The hammer is retired from public relations." Deletion did not kill the rumor. Men who resented my rank now believed Renee had spent the night in a presidential suite I rented casually. Victoria's public fake relationship made the same story look like a declaration of war. That weekend, Alden Trower brought me to a senior money game. Alden knew the campus power map and preferred useful people over loud ones. Travis Calderon sat behind a stack of cash. The key thief had already lost dignity in my dorm. Now he wanted proof that my money was fake. Travis pushed the buy-in forward. Presidential suite, national rank, Victoria Whitmore. Which part is real? I took the empty chair. Put money down and pick one. I paid the ante. Gambling skill acquired through related spending and active play. The first hand stayed small. Travis rubbed his watch clasp whenever he lied. I watched the tell twice. On the final hand, he pushed $3,000 into the middle. "Call it," Travis told me. "Let's see whether school rankings work without Professor Madsen." I called. Travis showed ace high. I showed 2 pair. The dealer stopped smiling. One man near the door slid his cash away from Travis. Alden pushed the pot toward me. "Pay the freshman. You invited him." Travis stared at the cards. "Lucky hand," I answered. "Lucky people don't need your tell." His thumb left the clasp. Outside, Alden warned me that the seniors would keep asking about my family, the hotel, and Victoria. "Let them ask," I said. Alden glanced back at the closed door. "They don't like answers that make them smaller." That night, Velvet Cucumber used the one channel Renee had not blocked. "I slept with a man who thinks he's a demigod," she wrote. "He probably believes he won." I asked, "Did he?" "He won one night. The relationship is a war." Renee listed her next moves: study harder, train, write, earn more, then return strong enough to control me. I replied, "Stop blocking him long enough to compete." "No, let him suffer." Checked my real phone, still blocked. Petty. Effective. I respected the craftsmanship. The following week, I asked Alden to install gymnastic rings above the campus training floor. In return, I offered his group access to the Meridian suites I rented frequently. "Frequently?" Alden asked. "I have at least one for the year," I told him. "Yet." Alden checked the ceiling mounts. "The rings go up tomorrow." Victoria entered the gym wearing sunglasses indoors and carrying 2 cinema tickets. "My father's account better have good news," she told me. "It does. I need to show Randall the results." Victoria held up the tickets. "Movie first. Fake boyfriends require maintenance." Alden looked between us. Victoria hooked one finger through my gym bag. "Are you coming?" I told Alden. "My sponsor has scheduled recreation." Victoria smiled. "Keep calling me sponsor. I'll start charging interest." Alden's expression said the relationship had stopped looking fake. 3 weeks later, outside the cinema, Victoria turned our movie into a photo shoot and dragged me to dinner afterward. She wore a fitted cream coat over a dark dress. I was still looking at her when she linked her arm through mine. A camera flashed across the street. I turned toward it. The photographer lowered the lens and moved away. Victoria never looked surprised. She adjusted my collar and smiled at the disappearing camera. I asked, "Public relations?" She answered, "You agreed to proof." That was close enough to an admission. At the Whitmore mansion, Victoria's observant mother, Diane, met us at the door and looked at our linked arms. "Good movie?" Diane asked. Victoria answered, "Average." Diane looked at my collar, then at Victoria's slightly altered lipstick. "Very average." The lipstick detective missed nothing. Inside the sitting room, Diane placed us together on the same sofa and brought one dessert plate with 2 forks. Victoria looked at the single plate. "Mom," Diane smiled. "You survived one movie. Share." Took the first bite. Victoria stole the second and wiped a dot of cream from my lip with her thumb. "Your fake girlfriend package includes portion control," she told me. I answered, "Your father's account is paying well. I can afford another plate." Victoria leaned closer and kissed me before I could call the server. Diane walked out smiling like she had just closed a deal. Victoria lowered her voice. "Renee told me she spent the night with you," I answered. "Renee says dramatic things when angry. Alden saw me in the senior rooms before the weekend ended." It was a thin alibi. I thought Victoria wanted a reason to delay the fight because she let the answers stand. I showed her the messages 2 Money Game seniors had sent through other students. "Your public photos attract men who think access to you can be defended by threatening me," I told her. Victoria read the messages twice. Her expression lost its teasing edge. She asked, "Are they dangerous?" "They're entitled. That becomes dangerous when they lose." At dinner, Victoria's father, Randall, opened the account summary. The returns had recovered a visible part of his earlier loss. Randall stopped asking dating questions long enough to study the numbers. Then he removed an expensive watch and placed it beside my plate. "Keep this," Randall told me. "People who know me will recognize it." Victoria stared at him. "Dad!" Randall waved her off. "Calvin earned it." The father's speed running the wedding had moved from checks to putting his watch on my wrist. Diane watched Victoria's face. Victoria watched the watch on my wrist. Before dessert, she leaned over and kissed my cheek where both parents could see. "Maintenance," Victoria whispered. I answered, "Your service plan is getting expensive." That night, Victoria posted the cinema photo and another picture of me beside Randall. My phone buzzed before the post finished spreading. Alden wrote, "3 seniors got your dorm key. 11 tomorrow night. Don't go in blind." At 10:45 Friday night, I returned to the top floor dorm and found my key missing. Alden's warning had named the time, 11. Victoria's latest photo showed me beside Randall Whitmore, wearing the watch he had given me. According to Alden, Travis Calderon saw it as proof I had taken Victoria from him. Travis was the jealous senior I had beaten at cards, and he recruited 2 friends. So they borrowed my key without permission and planned a group visit. Very social men. I had already reported the missing key to the dorm supervisor. I asked him to walk the floor after 11 because I was testing room safety. His footsteps would pressure the intruders. The trap still had to work without him. My bag held stage blood, rubber intestines, and a white cloth I had bought from a costume shop that evening. The gymnastic rings Alden installed hung above the center of the room. The hammer stayed in its drawer. Their imagination would do better work. I turned off the lights, secured my weight through the rings, and let the white cloth hide the support. From the doorway, my body looked suspended and still. At 10:59, metal scraped inside the lock. Travis entered first. A second senior followed him. A third squeezed through behind them and shut the door. Travis held my stolen key between 2 fingers. "We scare him once, and he stops acting like Victoria belongs to him." The second senior rolled his shoulders. "Make him apologize on video." The third senior glanced toward my desk. "Watch for the hammer." The second senior answered, "He's one freshman." They had arrived with a romantic claim, a camera plan, and 3 bodies against 1. They had earned the humiliation waiting in the dark. Then Travis saw the white shape hanging in the dark. He stopped so hard the second senior hit his back. The third senior raised his phone light. The beam found my shoes above the floor. Nobody spoke for 2 seconds. The second senior finally whispered, "Calvin?" I let one foot turn slowly. The third senior screamed. Travis backed into the desk. The second senior grabbed the door handle and missed it twice. Look, 3 grown men had entered to beat me. A bedsheet reduced them to malfunctioning furniture. I lowered my head beneath the cloth. "Why did you come?" I asked. Travis made a sound I had never heard from a man with that much confidence. The second senior reached toward me, then stopped when the cloth shifted again. The third senior whispered, "We need to call someone." Travis snapped. "Nobody calls anyone. We were never here." Beautiful. The key thief had reached the cover-up stage before confirming a body. They rushed for the door. The third senior stepped on the prop bag. Rubber intestines slid across the floor under sticky red syrup. He looked down, saw the fake mess around his shoe, and vomited beside Cody's desk. The second senior shouted, "He's dead!" dropped from the rings behind them. "He's also tired," I told him. All 3 turned. The white cloth fell from my shoulders. Stage blood ran down my shirt. The props were obviously rubber under the room light. Travis still pressed himself against the door. The second senior raised both hands. This is insane, answered. You stole my key at 11 to attack me. He had no reply that improved his position. The third senior wiped his mouth. We thought this would be easy. Know what you thought, I pointed at the floor. Clean it. Travis stared. You want us to clean? Open the hammer drawer without touching the handle inside. Travis grabbed paper towels. The second senior found the mop. The third senior bagged the rubber props while trying not to look at them. Alden arrived 5 minutes later. He took one look at the open door and said, I came to make sure your prank didn't create a real body. He found 3 senior attackers scrubbing my floor while I sat on the bed reading. Alden looked at Travis. You lost to housekeeping? Travis kept mopping. 5 minutes earlier, Travis had held my key like a trophy. Now he held Cody's trash bag while the second senior worked the mop. Alden waited until the floor was clean. The dorm supervisor's footsteps passed outside at 11:10. Travis froze with the mop in his hands. I stayed silent. The footsteps continued. Travis kept mopping. Then Alden told them, You came in with a stolen key. Calvin decides whether this ends here. I looked at the 3 men. Return the key. Replace Cody's rug. Stay out of my room. Travis placed the key on my desk. The second senior paid for the rug before leaving. The third senior refused to meet my eyes. After they left, I found the dorm supervisor in the hall. I told him 3 unauthorized seniors had used my missing key and returned it after damaging the rug. He logged the late entry. I kept the fake corpse out of the report. Then Alden looked at the rings. You installed those for training, he said. I answered, cross-training. He laughed, despite himself. The cloth had rubbed a red line around my neck. I took one photo and sent it to Victoria. I wrote, Your admirers tried to strangle me. The sentence was unfair. That photo made it believable. Next morning, Victoria burst into my frequent suite at the Meridian Grand because of the redneck photo. She had driven across town without fixing her hair. Her coat hung open, and she grabbed my shoulders before the door shut. Calvin, who did this? I moved the collar of my shirt and showed her the shallow cloth mark. I did, I admitted. Your admirers supplied the reason. Victoria stared at me. Her eyes moved to the red line, the untouched room, and the haunted house bag beside the wall. You knew they were coming? She asked. Alden warned me. Your public photo supplied the motive. Victoria pulled out her phone and deleted the latest post in front of me. Then she hit my chest with both hands. You made me think they hanged you. I caught one wrist. You made 3 jealous men think I stole you. That does not equal a fake death photo. Agreed. Mine was more effective. Victoria tried to pull away. I drew her across my knee, gave the back of her coat one quick swat, and let her sit up immediately. She slapped my shoulder. Discount psychopath. I kissed her before she could say dog again. Victoria kissed me back, then shoved my face away. Victoria snapped. You're impossible, answered. Injured people need comfort. Victoria looked at the red mark. You're not injured. I touched the red mark. Emotionally devastated. She almost laughed. The fear left her shoulders. Then I put the hotel numbers on the table. The dorm had late-night fights, locked gates, stolen keys, and students with nowhere affordable to go. I claimed a student-focused hotel near campus could produce $300,000 a month if the demand held. That was my aggressive forecast. The visible nightly chaos made it plausible enough to test. I asked Victoria for $1.5 million. She paced once across the suite. You staged a corpse last night, kissed me this morning, and now you want startup capital. I answered. The order is efficient. Victoria looked at the projection, then at my neck. You're pitching me because my admirers attacked you? I'm monetizing customer research. Victoria tapped the page. $1.5 million makes me a partner, I answered. I already have enough relationship labels. She leaned back. $2 million. I looked up. Victoria continued. I want income. My parents cannot turn into another wedding plan. We're accomplices. Accomplices share profit. They also share evidence. She pointed at the neck photo. The heiress had increased my request and insulted the partnership in one move. Women had once made me pay for attention. Now Victoria Whitmore was raising her own investment offer. I held out my hand. $2 million. Accomplices. Victoria shook it. She left after stealing another kiss and warning me never to send a death-looking photo again. I slept late. When I woke, the transfer had already cleared. Deposit received. $2 million. The number sat on my screen like a dare. Alden called before I finished reading it. He said Travis had finally admitted that watch came from Randall Whitmore and nobody poor rents the presidential suite at the Meridian. After that, nobody in their room called me a broke freshman again. I told Alden, good, confusion is healthier than confidence. 2 days after Victoria's transfer cleared, I met Hotel Vice President Laura Crowley inside the empty presidential suite. Laura ran long-term deals for the Meridian Grand. She slid over the posted annual rate and waited for the college student to fold. I left the paper untouched. This suite sits empty most weekdays, I told her. I'll guarantee a year of occupancy and bring guest spending with it. Laura folded her hands. Presidential inventory protects the hotel's brand. I placed Victoria's $2 million transfer beside the rate. An empty room protects nothing. Her posture changed. Laura tried one final bluff. We have other clients. I stood and picked up the folder. Then one of them can pay tonight. Nobody called. Laura caught the contract and lowered the gross annual price to $5,750,000. I paid through the hotel reimbursement card. Eligible reimbursement, 80%. Final out-of-pocket cost, $1,150,000. Points credited on out-of-pocket cost only. Laura's tone changed before the receipt finished. Mr. Archer, the presidential suite is yours for 1 year, Laura told me. The Meridian Grand is also extending lifetime VIP treatment. She handed me the long-term key card with both hands. The original rate stayed on the table. That weekend, at my new Meridian suite, the same seniors entered through a door hotel staff opened for me. I invited Alden, Cody, the 3 embarrassed attackers, and several friends from their group. A hotel manager greeted me at the elevator. Welcome back, Mr. Archer. Dinner is ready in the suite. Travis heard the title. The second attacker watched the manager take my coat. Cody stared at the dining room like he had entered a television set. Premium food covered the table. Staff poured drinks and remembered my preferences. Cody opened the bedroom door, saw the private office and second dining area, and came back with his voice lowered. One attacker's girlfriend asked whether I lived there. Travis answered before I could. He has it for the year, Travis admitted. The table turned toward Travis. He looked down at his plate. The same men who had called me poor 2 nights earlier waited until I sat before choosing seats. Travis cleared his throat. About the dorm. I looked at him. He continued. We crossed a line. The second attacker added. The key was a mistake. Cody whispered to Alden. The fake corpse gave an apology dinner. Alden answered. The fake corpse owns the room. I let both attackers apologize clearly. Then I handed them food instead of a speech. Their partners saw the watch from Randall, the annual keycard, and the staff response. By dessert, nobody at that table believed I was pretending to have money. The campus email arrived during dinner. It cited the unauthorized entry and damaged RUD the supervisor had logged. Crestview imposed an 11 at night lights out rule, and the senior rooms lost their profitable card games, parties, and private gatherings. Travis read the notice twice. Did Victoria's family cause this? I took a drink. I didn't ask. Alden looked around the suite. Our usual rooms close at 11. I slid the spare event keycard across the table, then stopped it beneath my finger. This room stays open when I approve it, I told him. No stolen keys, no ambushes, guests pay for damage. The seniors looked at one another. Alden asked, what does approval cost? I pointed at the food bill. Bring paying guests, keep the room clean. Anyone steals a key, Travis supervises the cleanup. Travis looked down at his plate. Cody started laughing and had to leave the table. Their punishment had killed the old venue. My suite became the replacement before dinner ended. Then Alden placed a new problem beside my plate. Seth Driscoll wants a controlled fight, he told me. He's the strongest senior in our circle. Travis and the others want their pride back. Victoria messaged at the same moment. My father arranged a dinner with adult investors. Wear something decent. The fake corpse bought me a suite and a business partner. The men I scared out of my dorm decided they wanted one clean fight instead. Clean lasted about 30 seconds. Before the first party left the Meridian Hotel pool, my annual suite created 2 new bills. Alden wanted me to face Seth Driscoll, the strongest senior in his circle. Victoria wanted me sober, dressed, and respectable for dinner with her father's investors. The fight bill arrived first. Damien Thorne was an entitled upperclassman with expensive swim trunks and the belief that women owed him patience. He was about to turn a storage room door into a public mistake. The party had started as a victory lap. The Meridian staff brought towels before anyone asked. Alden's friends stopped treating my suite key like a rumor. Even Travis kept his hands away from every lock. Progress. Monica Benton, a confident senior in Alden's circle, joined us near the water. She looked completely at home around money. Her black swimsuit also made several men forget the pool had water. In my defense, I noticed, I also remembered how to behave. Monica sat beside me and lifted my drink. Calvin, are guests allowed to steal these? Took it back. Guests can ask. Monica smiled. That sounds less fun, I told her. Then steal Alden's. Alden pointed from the next chair. Leave me out of the flirting budget. The senior broker had learned fast. My life charged interest on every joke. Several seniors around the pool were paired by family expectations. Monica nodded toward Damien. My family keeps pushing him at me because our circles match. She rolled her eyes. I keep walking away. Damien watched Monica laugh. His face tightened each time she looked my way. He had hovered around her all afternoon. Monica had moved away twice. Damien heard both refusals and started looking for a quieter room. Monica stood to get another towel. Damien caught her wrist near the storage hallway. I saw her pull back. Damien leaned close. Stop embarrassing me! Monica yanked once. Let go. He opened the storage room door and pulled her inside. I was already moving. The door had not closed when I caught it with my foot. Inside, Damien had Monica against the wall with one forearm beside her shoulder. She was angry. He was blocking the exit. I pushed the door open. Monica asked you to let go. Damien turned his head. This is private, Monica snapped. I'm trying to leave. That settled the privacy debate. I stepped between them and took Damien's wrist. He tried to hold his position. I peeled his hand away, turned his thumb, and drove him into the metal shelving hard enough to empty his lungs. The shelves rattled. A stack of towels fell over his shoulder. Monica moved past me and reached the open door. I kept my eyes on Damien. Go back to the party, Monica. She did. Damien twisted free and shoved off the shelf. You think a sweet makes you untouchable? He demanded. I answered, no, your wrist made you touchable. His face went red. Damien swung his shoulder forward like he wanted the rest of the fight. I held up one hand. Take another step, and the pool gets a demonstration. People were already looking down the hallway. Damien checked the witnesses. His courage suddenly wanted a scheduled appointment. He pointed at me. Seth will handle you. Told him, bring him, you clearly need help. Damien left through the open door and walked past Monica without looking at her. Monica waited until he reached the pool. Then she touched my arm. Thank you, I asked. Do you want to leave? Monica shook her head. I want him to watch me stay. She returned to the chair beside mine. That choice changed the party faster than a speech could. Damien sat across the pool while Monica laughed with Alden and me. His friends stopped treating his anger like a command. Two women moved their bags away from his chair. He had tried to create privacy. He created witnesses and a new enemy. Beautiful work, honestly. That night, I hosted dinner in the suite because Fear had already proved excellent for repeat business. The guests praised the food, the staff, and the annual suite. Monica told the table what happened in one sentence. Damien's name lost value before dessert arrived. I ordered premium wine for Alden's group. The purchase triggered the spending system. Theme skill acquired, alcohol resistance. The rule was simple. My body could process alcohol faster and keep my judgment clear. I tested one glass. The warmth arrived. My head stayed clear. Alden watched me finish it. Useful? I answered. Potentially irresponsible. He poured his own glass. Good. Men with money love stupid tests. I had Randall's investor dinner in 2 days. At minimum, the new skill kept me from signing anything stupid after wine. Alden lowered his voice. Seth wants the fight. I can keep it controlled if you agree before Damien starts another hallway problem. Seth Driscoll was the gym king in Alden's circle. He had built his reputation by winning clean enough that other men repeated the story for him. I asked, what does he want? To prove the dorm stunt and the card game were tricks. Alden glanced toward the pool doors. Damien wants in. Travis probably will too. I took another drink. 3 men need 1 freshman? Alden shrugged. Pride is expensive. I looked at the suite around us. I've noticed. Alden warned me that Seth was faster than the other seniors and hated public disrespect. I accepted anyway. Set the fight, I told him. I'll set the price. The rescue had earned Damien's hatred. The suite had earned Travis's. My reputation had earned Seth's attention. 1 pool party, 3 volunteers. The next afternoon, Victoria collected me outside the Meridian for dinner with Roland Beckett, Randall's politically connected investor friend. Her fitted cream coat looked expensive. Her expression said, my current wardrobe had offended her family. She looked me over once. You cannot meet Roland Beckett dressed like a freshman who won a hotel in a card game. Technically, I scared people into the customer base. Victoria started walking. That sentence is why I'm buying the suit. She said Roland Beckett cared less about ordinary wealth than about who stayed useful around powerful people. He was attending dinner to judge whether her father's college prodigy could manage adult money. Victoria stopped outside a menswear store. My information has a price. I looked at her. Your father already invited me. The invitation gets you inside. I'm telling you how to survive. What's the price? Victoria tapped her cheek. I leaned closer. She moved at the last second and took the kiss on her mouth. Then Victoria lifted her phone and captured the proof. I looked at the screen. That was a consultation fee and a marketing expense. Victoria saved the photo. It was evidence that my fake boyfriend can follow instructions. The dog still refuses the leash. The dog is wearing my suit. She won that round. Inside the store, Victoria rejected 3 jackets before I touched the fabric. The 4th fit my shoulders and made the sales clerk stop calling me young man. Victoria fixed the collar herself. She stood close enough to make the mirror unnecessarily interesting. In my defense, I told her, the suit is getting excellent service. Victoria flattened the lapel. Try not to flirt with the tailor. I was talking about you. Her fingers paused once. Then she stepped back. Roland Beckett uses wine as a social test. Dad joins because men his age mistake liver damage for trust. I asked, which part worries you? The drinking. Victoria narrowed her eyes. Why is that good? I smiled. The suit already passed. 2 evenings later, Victoria took me to her father's private club dinner. The room held 4 people who mattered. Victoria, her father Randall Whitmore, investor Roland Beckett, and me. Roland Beckett was Randall Whitmore's politically connected friend. The investor studied Randall's watch on my wrist before he studied my face. Victoria's father poured the first glass. Calvin recovered a meaningful part of my account loss. Roland Beckett rested one hand beside his wine. One good result can be luck, I answered. That's why I prefer repeated results. The investor asked, what would you do with $10 million tomorrow? Keep most of it liquid until panic creates a discount. I don't buy what everyone is chasing. Roland Beckett glanced at Victoria's father, then raised his glass. Victoria had warned me. The market question opened the door. Wine was the real test. Randall Whitmore and the investor matched me round for round. After the second glass, Victoria's father loosened his tie. By the third, Roland Beckett repeated a question. The fourth left my hand steady. The alcohol resistance skill cleared each glass faster than they could refill it. Roland Beckett set down his wine. You've done this before? I bought the right bottle once. Victoria's father laughed too hard and missed the answer. The investor asked one more market question. I answered it and skipped the flattery. By the final bottle, Randall Whitmore was speaking with both hands. Roland Beckett had started leaning toward the table. I remained upright. Then the investor named the reward. Manage $10 million for me! Victoria's head turned. Roland Beckett continued. The principal stays mine. You receive a management fee and a share of gains above the benchmark. Victoria's father gets reporting access. I accepted. Victoria stopped hiding her smile. $10 million raised my status and gave every bad trade a rich audience. Roland Beckett held out his hand. Make me money. Shook it. That's the plan. Victoria's father raised his glass and nearly missed mine. Both older men reached for another bottle. I had already passed, so I let my eyes close and leaned sideways. Victoria caught my head in her lap. Calvin, she snapped. I let one arm fall loose. Randall Whitmore waved toward me. Young people have no endurance. Roland Beckett nodded like he had won something back. The pouring stopped. Victoria bent close to check my breathing. I opened one eye. Her face changed. You fraud. I closed it again. Consulting fee. Victoria pinched my ear under the table. She still helped me out of the club because her father and the investor were watching. At the Crestview drop-off, Renee walked from the library with a folder against her chest. She saw Victoria supporting my weight. Renee's gaze moved from my closed eyes to Victoria's hand at my waist. Congratulations, Renee told Victoria. You finally found a way to make him quiet. Victoria answered. Jealous? Renee opened the passenger door for her. Of carrying dead weight? I opened one eye. I can hear both of you. Renee's mouth tightened. Tragic. I thought the alcohol had improved you. She walked away before I could answer. The class monitor volcano still had plenty of heat. Victoria shoved me upright. You're walking now. I did. The next afternoon, Victoria dragged me through a department store because I owed her for the fake collapse. A bracelet in the jewelry case caught my attention. Simple metal, clean design. Exactly the kind of status object I could wear without looking like Derek had chosen it. The clerk checked the tag. That piece is reserved. I looked at the bracelet once more and left it there. The bracelet could wait. The fight could not. My phone rang before we reached the next counter. Alden confirmed Seth had accepted the fight. Damien wanted in because of Monica. Travis wanted his pride back after the car game and dorm cleanup. Seth wanted all 3 of them against me. I told Alden, bring cash, a camera, and 3 pens. Victoria took the phone from my hand. I'll bring the camera. The adults had handed me $10 million to manage. Now 3 college men wanted to prove I had not earned the right to stand beside one woman. Their timing was terrible. Saturday afternoon, Victoria and I entered the campus gym with 3 shopping bags and one very stupid wager. I carried the bags. Victoria carried the camera. She called herself my sponsor. I called the arrangement unpaid labor. Across the mat stood Seth Driscoll, Damian Thorne, Travis Calderon, and Alden Trower. Seth was the gym king who treated defeat like a rumor about other people. Damian was the wall-pin creep from the pool. Travis was the key thief who had already lost money, dignity, and one evening to cleaning fake intestines. Look, this social circle needed supervision. A dozen seniors watched near the weights. Seth had chosen a public gym because he wanted his status restored in public. Perfect. Public also meant witnesses. Victoria raised her phone. I'm recording from the first signature. I placed 3 one-page wagers on the bench. Each man posted $10,000. The total pool was $30,000. If I lost, I stayed away from Victoria. If they lost, all three stayed away from her and paid by Monday at noon. The three signatures locked a $30,000 pool and a Monday deadline. Alden read the page. You wrote this before you knew they would agree, told him. I put Victoria's name in the first paragraph. Damien skimmed one line. You think paper protects you? I answered. It stops you lying about the number later. Travis looked at Victoria. You agreed to this? Victoria kept the camera on him. I agreed to record you signing. Travis set his jaw and signed. Damien signed next and pressed hard enough to tear the paper. Seth did not read past the amount. He signed with one hand and pushed the page toward me. You'll be unconscious before payment matters. I signed last. Then Seth pointed at Randall's watch on my wrist. You hide behind Whitmore money, hotel staff, and cheap tricks. I moved Victoria's bags farther from the mat. You brought two men to expose my tricks. Damien stepped forward. You embarrassed people who are trying to teach you respect. Even Renee is sick of you. Looked at his taped nose. Renee argues with me herself. Monica asked you to let go. Neither woman sent you. Few students laughed. Damien's face tightened. Seth lifted one hand and silenced him. Seth had trained there for years. Men moved off equipment when he approached. Even Alden watched him carefully. Then the local king assumed the room belonged to him forever. Seth stepped onto the mat. One at a time, I looked at Damien and Travis. All three! Damien laughed. Travis stayed quiet. Alden warned me. Calvin, Seth is serious, I answered. I know, Victoria called from behind the phone. Try not to damage the suit. I glanced at her bags. My sponsor has priorities. Both Damien and Travis tightened when Victoria sounded comfortable beside me. $30,000 was cheap beside public access to her. Seth rolled his shoulders. After I drop you, Victoria walks out with us. Victoria's camera stayed level. I walk where I choose. Seth smiled at her. You'll choose differently when you see what he is, I answered. You signed a page because a woman would not choose you. The room already sees it. The laugh came from behind Seth. His smile disappeared. He had insulted me, claimed Victoria, and invited witnesses. The idiot had built the stage himself. Three men could close every angle. I needed one of them to get greedy first. I pointed at Seth. You first. He took the insult exactly as intended. Seth moved without warning. His lead foot cut across Damien's path. Damien checked his step. Travis paused behind both men. One arrogant choice had reduced three attackers to one. Seth's right fist came straight toward my jaw. Fast, clean. He expected me to retreat. I watched the shoulder, then the hip. The punch had power because he committed his weight before he knew where I would be. I stepped inside. His fist passed my ear. I caught his wrist with my left hand and drove my right forearm under his elbow. Then I turned my hips. Seth's balance went one direction. His wrist went another. The joint popped. He dropped to one knee before his face understood the result. The gym went silent around the sound. A weight stopped halfway to its rack. One of Seth's friends lowered his phone. Alden's posture changed from mediator to witness. Victoria's camera stayed on Seth. He stared at his bent wrist. You released him. The strongest one lasted one punch, I told Damien. His own. Damien charged before Seth finished falling. He had just watched the strongest man lose on the first exchange. A smarter person would have changed the plan. Damien had never met a bad plan he could not make heavier. He came in hard, shoulders high, trying to drive me backward with size. At the pool, he had used a wall to trap Monica. Now he wanted to use his body the same way. I gave him one step. He took it. Then I shifted left and planted my foot. Damien's guard opened as he turned. I hit him once across the bridge of the nose. His head snapped back. The impact stopped his charge and folded him onto his hands. Blood touched his upper lip. He stared at the mat like it had betrayed him. He stayed there, blinking through the pain. Damien had used a wall to trap Monica. Now half the senior gym watched him crawl toward a towel. No speech improved that picture. Travis stopped 3 feet away. He had entered with his fists raised. He lowered them slowly. I turned toward him. Travis stepped back. Seth knelt beside the mat, gripping his wrist. Damien held his nose. The 3-on-1 had become 1-on-1. Travis kept stepping away from the remaining one. I asked, still coming? Travis looked at the camera, the signed wager, and the two men on the floor. Travis answered, no. Victoria made him repeat it. Travis swallowed. I'm done. One senior near the wall muttered, he didn't even touch him. Travis heard it. His shoulders dropped another inch. Alden stepped between us. Fight's over. I picked up the wagers. 30,000 by Monday, I reminded them. Stay away from Victoria. Victoria lowered the camera slightly. I heard him. Seth looked up at Victoria. Her camera moved from the signatures to his bent wrist. Alden reached for an ice pack. Travis moved toward the wall. Damien stayed down. Every normal exit remained available. Seth pushed himself to his feet. Alden moved toward him. Sit down. Your wrist needs ice. Seth jerked away. I'm fine. His breathing had gone sharp. His left hand opened and closed beside his waistband. I watched his shoulders. Alden watched the injured wrist. Victoria watched everything through the camera. Travis backed toward the wall. Damien kept pressure on his nose and said nothing. I held Seth's signed page where he could see the deadline. Monday at noon, I told him. Pay it and stay away. His eyes fixed on the signature. Seth stared at the signed page. Then he looked at Victoria's camera. Then he looked at his bent wrist. His left hand went behind his waistband. Victoria saw the movement first. Calvin, behind his waist! I turned. A folding knife opened in Seth's hand. The blade entered after the fight had ended. The students nearest the mat moved backward. Travis raised both hands. Damien froze with the towel against his face. Victoria kept the phone up, but her voice changed. Calvin, move! Seth lunged from 3 steps away. His injured right wrist pulled him off balance. He lunged anyway. The point tracked toward my ribs. I had less than a second. 3 steps were too close for a full retreat. Turning away exposed my ribs, and Alden was still 2 steps from Seth's knife arm. I could move late or stop the weapon. I chose the hand. My right palm closed over the blade. Pain hit before I saw the cut. I caught Seth's knife wrist with my left hand and drove it down. The blade tore deeper across my palm as he resisted. Warm blood ran over my fingers. My grip weakened. Seth pushed harder. I trapped his left elbow against my ribs, stepped outside his leg, and used his lunge to turn him. Then I rotated his arm and slammed him face first onto the mat. The knife left his hand. It struck the signed wager and slid across the paper. A line of blood followed it. Victoria screamed my name. Alden kicked the knife away and pinned Seth's shoulder after I had already put him down. Travis flattened himself against the wall. Damien stared at the blood and forgot his own nose. Seth fought once under Alden's grip. Alden drove him flat. Stop! You lost! Seth stopped moving. That was the sentence he had refused 30 seconds earlier. Victoria dropped beside me with her phone still recording. She grabbed a clean towel from the bench and wrapped it around my palm. Her hands shook. Hold pressure, she ordered. I did. Blood soaked through the first layer. The pain had a pulse now. My fingers would not close correctly. The spending system could improve strength. Medical restoration was still level-gated. No instant answer waited inside the gym. Victoria looked at the cut and went pale. Save the video and send 1 copy, I told her. Victoria did it while tightening the towel. The footage showed the signed loss, her warning, and Seth introducing a knife after the fight. My hand was the problem now. Alden kept Seth down. A student near the weights wrapped the knife in a towel and moved it away. Nobody celebrated. The room had come for a show. Now I was holding a knife wound closed. Victoria pressed harder on my palm. I inhaled through my teeth. She snapped, "Do not act calm." Not. She tightened the towel. I stopped talking. The gym doors opened as more students gathered in the hall. One person saw Damien's nose. Another saw Seth under Alden. Everyone saw the towel turning red. The rumor changed before we reached the exit. A student whispered that 3 seniors jumped me. Another said it was over Victoria. Nobody asked about the money. Campus rumor had already turned the attack into a fight over Victoria. Victoria kept one arm around me and moved me toward the parking lot. Alden followed long enough to make sure Seth stayed behind with witnesses. Travis did not meet my eyes. Damien sat against the wall. Seth remained on the mat with one useless wrist and a camera full of proof. I had beaten all 3, and my right hand could not feel 2 fingertips properly. 10 minutes later, Victoria drove through the city while pressing another folded cloth against my palm at every red light. I told her to watch the road. She told me to stop talking. Emergency room doors opened ahead of us. The wager was settled. My bill had just started. At the city hospital, the doctor cleaned my hand while Victoria held the saved recording and my bloody sleeve. The blade had cut deep across my right palm. The doctor gave me 3 facts. I needed stitches. Full use could take 2 months. The scar might stay. Seth had lost cleanly and left me a 2-month bill. The doctor asked me to move each finger. My thumb moved. The index finger shook. My last 2 barely answered. Victoria watched every attempt and counted under her breath. She had stayed calm while driving. The finger test made her hands shake. Again, she told me. The doctor stopped her. He needs the hands still. Victoria nodded once and went quiet. She stood beside the bed with dried blood on her cuff. Her phone kept vibrating with calls and messages. She ignored them. I told her, send the video to 2 safe places, keep the original. Victoria did it without arguing. She also texted Randall the hospital name, told him she was unhurt, and sent 1 copy. His reply came before the needle. I'm on my way. The recording could stop Seth from rewriting the knife. Healing still belonged to time and a level-gated system function. The doctor injected the numbing medicine. The needle entered near the cut. Victoria looked away for half a second, then forced herself to watch. Pain still moved through my wrist. My national investment challenge was active. Roland had just trusted me with $10 million. Randall's account still needed results. The hotel venture existed as a suite, a forecast, and Victoria's $2 million. My strongest hand could not close. That answered one question and made every expensive one worse. A hospital worker asked how the injury happened and whether security needed the footage. I gave the useful version. 3 men agreed to a fight. I won. One introduced a knife afterward. Victoria lifted the phone. It's recorded. The hospital worker nodded and left us with the hand. The first stitch went through. Victoria's fingers tightened around the bedrail until her knuckles went pale. She released it slowly. She checked the tray, the door, and my face every few seconds. Victoria had spent months controlling every room. Here, the doctor and the clock controlled everything. Before the doctor placed the last stitches, a campus forum post reached Victoria's screen. One headline claimed the national finance prodigy had been stabbed in a fight over an heiress. The post included a blurry gym photo and the hospital name. Look, I had agreed to a cash wager. Campus had already turned it into a love triangle war. One person claimed I fought for Victoria. Another claimed Renee had caused it. A third invented a championship belt. Campus gossip could watch 3 men sign a money contract and still graduate with the wrong lesson. The hospital name gave every worried person a delivery path. 2 minutes later, shoes hit the hallway at a run. Kayla Donnelly entered first. The gold digger with a calculator had once measured every gift before measuring me. Now she crossed the room without looking at anyone else. Calvin! Kayla grabbed my right arm and pulled it against her chest. Pain flashed through the fresh stitches. I made a sound I did not plan. The nurse snapped. That is the injured arm. Kayla released me so fast she nearly fell into the tray, her face drained. I'm sorry, I didn't know where he was hurt. I held the bandaged hand against my chest. Kayla's eyes filled. You could have been killed. The room went quiet. Renee Chandler entered behind her, breathing hard and still holding her class monitor folder. Renee stopped at the sight of the bandage. The class monitor volcano tried to recover before anyone saw the fear. She failed. What happened? Renee demanded. Victoria answered first. Seth pulled a knife after Calvin beat all 3. Renee looked at me. All 3? I nodded once. Kayla moved toward the bed again. Victoria stepped between her and my right side. He needs space, Victoria told her. Kayla looked at Victoria's bloody cuff. You're not a nurse. Victoria lifted her chin. I'm his girlfriend. Renee's head turned sharply. Since when? Victoria answered. Since before you ran here. Kayla pointed at me. Did he agree? Stayed quiet. Victoria's face stayed hard. The doctor pulled the next stitch tight. Everyone stopped arguing. Renee placed her folder on the chair and moved closer. She asked the doctor, will he be able to write? The doctor repeated the estimate. 2 months for full use and a scar might remain. Renee's eyes dropped to my hand. The investment challenge required speed. Renee knew that. The novel needed pages too, but only I knew my injured hand threatened both deadlines. Renee took my left hand and checked the fingers without touching the bandage. Can you type one-handed? She asked. I answered. Badly, Renee promised. I'll send the challenge notes tonight. Her voice became formal. I'm the class monitor. I'll handle his academic notes. Kayla folded her arms. I can help him outside class, Victoria replied. He already has help. I leaned back against the pillow. Kayla opened her phone and started canceling whatever she had planned. Renee began listing the classes I would miss. Victoria told both women the doctor had not discharged me. Victoria looked at Renee. Damien used your name before the fight, she said. He claimed your anger gave him a reason to put Calvin in his place. Renee went still. Renee's face tightened. I never asked him to fight Calvin. I know, Victoria answered. He used you anyway. Renee looked at my bandage again. Guilt replaced the class monitor mask. She stepped closer. Calvin, I didn't know. Told her I know. Kayla touched Renee's shoulder. Renee did not move. Victoria remained on my other side with the recording in one hand. The former doormat had become the hospital schedule. The doctor tied the last stitch and covered my palm. Before anyone could claim the next hour, the door opened. Randall Whitmore entered, looked at the blood on Victoria, and stopped treating anyone else as the main problem. The father speed-running the wedding crossed straight to the bed. Calvin, how bad? I lifted the bandaged hand. 2 months, possible scar. Randall's jaw tightened. Then he checked Victoria from head to toe. Were you hurt? Victoria shook her head. I recorded everything. Randall took the phone, watched enough to see Seth's knife, and handed it back. His expression hardened. Randall asked, did he attack after the fight stopped? Victoria answered, the recording shows it. Randall nodded once. Whatever he chose to do with that fact belonged after the hospital. He pulled the chair beside my bed closer. Then Randall looked at the doctor. Give Calvin whatever treatment he needs. The doctor answered. The hand is stable. Recovery takes time. The answer stopped Randall's questions. He looked at my bandaged hand, then at the Whitmore watch on my left wrist. You have the competition, the hotel plan, and 2 accounts to manage, he told me. I answered. I know. Randall replied. Then recover before pride makes another decision for you. That was the closest Randall came to scolding me. He still pulled the chair closer. Kayla shifted near the wall. Renee stood beside her folder. Victoria kept one hand on the bed rail. Randall looked at the three women and then at me. Renee watched Randall pull the chair closer. Then she took Kayla's arm. Kayla resisted. I'm staying, Renee told her quietly. His family is here. Kayla stopped resisting. Victoria stayed silent. Randall accepted the word as fact. I said nothing. My bandaged hand would not close. Monday still held the investment challenge, 2 managed accounts, and a hotel plan. Renee still trusted my anonymous voice. Victoria's fake relationship had just become public in front of Randall. The nurse announced that only one visitor could remain after the doctor left. Kayla opened her mouth. Renee looked at Victoria. Randall answered before either woman could argue. Victoria stays! Renee took Kayla toward the hall. The nurse pulled the curtain. Renee was still looking back when it closed.